Black Clover, the son of fire dragon Igneel. Chapter 61. Conclusion. When Drake activated his magic domain, Ikki and the others felt its effects. What is this? Kurogane Shizuku trembled, leaning against Ikki Kurogane, though whether her inability to stand was genuine fear was questionable. Nagi Arisuan chuckled wryly, this must be Drake-san's ability. I heard he's a dragon-type concept interference user. He truly is as terrifying as a legendary dragon. Ikki Kurogane nodded. He was in the best condition. He wasn't afraid of powerful opponents, his fear was something colder. He supported Kurogane Shizuku. It seems Drake-san alone is sufficient, we don't need to help. The rebellion believers, being ordinary people, couldn't even stand within the dragon's nest. Smile was the only real threat, and Ikki Kurogane didn't believe Drake would lose to that disgusting villain. He still didn't know Drake's true strength. Smile's face was contorted, not just from the magic domain but from rage. He was furious at the intelligence failure, they hadn't reported such a powerful sword master. He had to face an opponent whose abilities were unknown but clearly superior. This temporarily suppressed his fear. Unlike most psychopaths, Bisho could think rationally. After weighing his options, he didn't believe he would necessarily lose, and the key to winning this fight lay in his own abilities. Drake watched as Bisho stood, surprisingly calm. Drake was wary but prepared to fight, he wouldn't let this dangerous individual go. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. Amplified by the magic domain, Drake's fist was enveloped in even more intense flames. To Smile, it looked like a monstrous beast extending its claws. However, faced with this attack, Bisho merely raised his left hand. Stella was certain that the sheer force of Drake's punch alone would be enough to shatter Bisho's arm, let alone the searing flames. Unexpectedly, however, Drake's fist was blocked by Bisho's palm. Stella's eyes widened in astonishment, she couldn't comprehend how Bisho had managed it. Bisho didn't bother with an explanation, he unleashed a right punch that struck Drake directly in the abdomen. Drake's feet left two deep gouges in the ground, the immense force causing him to involuntarily recoil. What the? Stella didn't believe Bisho was strong enough to repel Drake head-on, he must have employed some kind of technique, though she couldn't figure it out at that moment. Bisho said arrogantly, well, have you seen the power of this master? In other words, you have absolutely no way of defeating me. Drake examined the burn hole in his clothes and looked up. I see. I understand what ability you're using. Those rings on your hands must be your device. And your ability must be a causal interference type that absorbs your opponent's attacks and reflects them back. Seeing through this technique was incredibly simple, because Drake could sense that the force of the punch Bisho had landed on him was clearly his own Dragon Slayer magic. After all, a Fire Dragon Slayer mage couldn't absorb his own flames. Smile had hoped to defeat Drake before he could understand his ability, but he hadn't expected to be exposed so quickly. However, he believed that even with his ability exposed, Drake wouldn't be able to counter it immediately. Ah, so you've discovered it. That's right, these are my device, a pair of Judgment Ring, and my ability, Judgment. Bisho revealed the rings, radiating an ominous red glow, and said triumphantly, the ring on my left hand absorbs the damage received as sin, and the ring on my right hand converts it into punishment, and fires it back at the opponent. In other words, the stronger the opponent, the stronger my power becomes. Drake scoffed, my foster father once taught me that the more powerful an ability is, the greater the cost, there's no such thing as an absolute ability. It's merely an ability to absorb and reflect. To defeat you, I have at least 3 methods. With those words, Drake instantly closed the distance to Bisho, unleashing another Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. Bisho secretly chuckled at Drake's lack of caution, raising his hand once more to absorb the force of Drake's fist. However, his right punch only connected with Drake's afterimage. The difference in their martial arts skills and combat capabilities was too vast. With his guard up, Drake would never be hit again. Drake stood at a distance, stating, see. Your counterattack can't hit me. How much magic do you have? How many of my attacks can you absorb? Bisho's face darkened. As Drake had said, absorbing and converting stronger attacks consumed more of his magic power. And with his counterattacks consistently missing their mark, he would inevitably deplete all his magic power, the consequences of that were readily apparent. Drake waved his hand dismissively. Don't worry, I said I wouldn't be gentle with you. With that, Drake began to walk towards Bisho, step by deliberate step. Get away from me. Bisho, driven to madness, pulled out his handgun and fired at Drake. The bullets were all melted by Drake's defensive magic, causing absolutely no harm. You said your power is equal to your opponent's, right? So that means you're nothing but a weakling. Drake taunted, in other words, you have no offensive power unless I attack you. But that would only lead to a stalemate, so my second method is. Drake gently brushed aside Bisho's arm. With a speed that left Bisho stunned, Drake's arm moved in a blur. Everyone only saw an indentation appear on Bisho's chest. The sound of shattering bones was particularly clear in the open space. Bisho's eyes bulged, and he spat blood as he flew backward. The attack connected. What happened? Stella asked. Puzzled, Bisho was supposed to be able to absorb his opponent's attacks. Drake explained, his ability isn't causal interference as I initially thought, it should be a concept interference related to damage. The difference between the two is that causal interference activates naturally, while concept interference requires his own processing. In other words, as long as the attack speed exceeds his reaction limit, he can't absorb it. Bisho, clutching his chest, struggled to his feet, spitting out another mouthful of blood. As Drake had said, this was a weakness of his ability. However, in a direct confrontation, very few people could achieve an attack speed that surpassed their reaction speed. Drake looked at Bisho, his voice cold. Next is the third method. Wait. Bisho now had absolutely no doubt that Drake possessed the ability to kill him, so he had to find a way to save his own life. Let's talk. Stopping now will benefit both of us. As if he hadn't heard a word, Drake continued, abilities still require a user, and humans have limits. In other words, as long as the power of the attack exceeds his absorption limit, that's the simplest and most direct method. With that, Drake walked towards Bisho, who was now half kneeling on the ground, grabbed him by the neck, and lifted him into the air. Now, let's see where your limit truly lies. Flames erupted from Drake's palm, completely enveloping Bisho. This time, Bisho desperately used his ability to absorb the damage from the flames. He couldn't even launch a counterattack. If he stopped absorbing the flames, even for a single instant, he would be consumed. But the flames seemed endless. Bisho watched in horror as cracks appeared on his left ring. Spiritual armor is a manifestation of the soul, a physical form of magic power, so it generally doesn't break. The cracks indicated that he had truly reached his limit. Amidst Bisho's mixture of regret and terror, the ring representing sin shattered, and he felt the excruciating pain of the flames. Before he could even let out a scream, his body turned to ashes. Nagi Arisuan, from a distance, sighed, I never expected Drake-san to be so. The reason Nagi Arisuan sighed wasn't simply because Drake had directly eliminated Bisho, but because even though he could have easily done so directly, he had instead used 3 different methods to counter Smile's ability. Iki Kurigane shook his head. It seems Drake was truly furious. Nagi Arisuan's smile held a deep meaning, and he said, perhaps we should avoid angering him in the future. Iki Kurigane chuckled, Drake is usually very kind, but I have to agree. Drake exhaled a puff of white breath, and the oppressive feeling in his chest finally disappeared. However, Drake turned his head towards another direction, where the lingering killing intent was concentrated. You've been watching for long enough, it's time to come out. Drake called out loudly. Are there still more enemies? Stella also raised the levadine, her gaze fixed on the direction Drake was looking. The air suddenly distorted, revealing a man with his hands raised high above his head. Having witnessed how Drake had dealt with Bisho just moments before, he certainly didn't dare to test Drake's patience. Don't misunderstand, I'm also a student of Hagen Academy. The man hastily explained his identity. It's you. Iki Kurigane, who had approached from the side, exclaimed in surprise. It seemed that this man, who had been hiding in the shadows, was an acquaintance of his. Rivals. Hunter, Shizuya Kirihara, AC rank sword master, was last year's top student, Hagen Academy's representative at the 7-Star Sword Festival, and Iki Kurigane's former classmate. He'd remained hidden thanks to his ultimate technique, Hunter's Forest. Drake didn't like him, his secretive technique showed he wasn't honorable. He'd also shown malice towards Iki, he only restrained himself out of fear of Drake. Drake left everything to Shizuya, not because he had 7 girlfriends. Shizuya was reluctant, but Drake gave him no choice. After the chaotic weekend, the intra-school selection tournament began. Ikki's first opponent was Shizuya. Ikki told Drake what happened between them. Perhaps because they were friends, Ikki spoke of his experiences for the first time. It stemmed from the Kurogane family, Ikki's prestigious family. They didn't want an F-rank Ikki to tarnish their name, they created countless problems for him. From a young age, Ikki wasn't allowed to learn swordsmanship, forcing him to leave home. Even after he left, they continued targeting him. The Kurogane family's influence in Japan's sword master community was immense, they were practically omnipotent. Besides Ikki's main family, there were numerous branch families and affiliated clans, their influence was widespread. Many influential figures in the Alliance's Japanese branch were connected to the Kurogane family. Hagen Academy's former principal was one of the Kurogane family's lackeys. He implemented a strategy against Ikki. Students below the standard ability value couldn't participate in practical training. Ikki missed the 7-star sword festival and practical classes. Rumors spread about Ikki. Being close to him would attract the principal's attention, associating with him would lower one's evaluation. This isolated Ikki. He had no friends that year. It was clearly the Kurogane family's doing. Shizuya Kirihara was the worst. Others avoided Ikki. Shizuya attacked him, spreading rumors, playing pranks, and physically assaulting him with his device, while teachers watched. He faced no punishment. Ikki knew that if he hadn't run, he would have been expelled. Japan had many like Shizuya Kirihara. They abused those who seemed weak. Drake regretted not punishing Shizuya earlier. Preparing for morning training, Drake looked at Ikki. Is this why you're gloomy? Ikki shook his head. I'm worried about today's match. Shizuya's ability is a poor match for me. Drake nodded. He hides his presence, appearance, ki, voice, and uses ranged device, a bow and arrow. The best counter is a large-scale attack, which you can't do. But I have a way to counter Shizuya Kirihara's ability. Ikki looked at Drake. Really? Drake nodded. A technique from a respected senior, it reads opponents' life force and emotions. Even if they hide their ki, their essential ki and hostility are unhidden. Ikki hesitated. Is it all right to teach me this? Drake smiled. If I offered, you can learn it. But I have something to say first. Ikki became serious. Drake said, after hearing your story, I understand why your sword feels light. Ikki was surprised. He was confident in his swordsmanship. He didn't understand Drake's assessment. Drake continued, strong individuals have strong beliefs, to protect, for dreams, or for revenge. Their drive is powerful. You, unacknowledged, enduring malice, have come this far, you have your conviction. But your conviction is weak. It's the difference between dying to achieve something and living to achieve something. Ikki pondered. His journey began with Kurogane Ryuma, the samurai who first acknowledged him. Not giving up is proof you haven't given up. Don't give up on yourself. This is my belief. But, as Drake said, he'd never sought a reason why he shouldn't give up. Perhaps to prove himself, for a dream, or for his father's approval, his sword felt light because it carried nothing important. Drake sighed. He thought Ikki was like Asta, but Ikki was more complicated. Thinking of Asta, Drake realized Asta's success was due to Yuno. Drake said, you realize this, right? What's your goal? Graduating from Hagen Academy and becoming a magic knight. I'm not talking about the obvious, I mean ambition. Ikki was silent. He'd focused on becoming a 7-star sword king to graduate, for his agreement with Kurono. He hadn't thought about the future. Drake approached. You don't have one. My ambition is to surpass everyone, to become the strongest, to see the view from the top. Ikki exclaimed, an amazing dream. Drake extended his hand. Want to see that view? Ikki looked at Drake, confused. Drake said, climbing alone is boring, a competition is more fun. Compete with me, let's see who becomes the strongest. Ikki was surprised. Strongest. Don't be disheartened. If you can't do it now, train hard, your limit-breaking self will achieve it. Drake interrupted, awakening Ikki. Ikki shook Drake's hand, smiling. All right. Let's compete. Let's see who reaches the summit first. Drake smiled. We're rivals. Don't forget, you're my acknowledged rival. If you lose to anyone but me, I won't forgive you. What are you saying? As rivals, I won't lose to you. Ambitious. I'll be watching. Stella watched them, stunned. Why did she see this upon arrival? Her biggest rival wasn't her classmates but. Icky turned. Why was there killing intent in Stella's eyes? The student council's elite. Hagen Academy's intra-school selection tournament saw students from all 3 grades competing for 6 spots. However, among ordinary sword masters, innate talent clearly outweighed acquired skill. Innate ability values were the biggest unfair advantage, making the difference in grade level almost meaningless. Drake also had a match today, against a third-year senior. Worried about Ikki Kuragane's match, he incapacitated his opponent before the senior could finish their pointless rambling, without even using his device. Drake had no time for such opponents. He was more concerned about the others. He'd taught Ikki Kuragane the key reading technique, but it was only a morning's instruction, its effectiveness was questionable. When Drake arrived at Ikki Kuragane's match, he already heard the announcement of his victory. While he was nurturing Ikki Kuragane, Drake's statement about considering him a rival wasn't a joke. It wasn't because Ikki Kuragane was the protagonist of this world, but due to his other characteristics. Like his device, in iron, Ikki Kuragane's past life had been like forging a samurai's sword, enduring trials by fire and hammer. External hardships hadn't broken him, they made him stronger. Becoming Drake's rival had sharpened this blade. If anyone had the potential to become a blade capable of wounding a dragon, it was Ikki Kuragane. To avoid being cut by that blade, Drake needed to become stronger. Shizuya Kirihara was no match for this blade, he was easily defeated. Drake learned that Shizuya Kirihara had forfeited his second match in last year's 7-Star Sword Festival simply because his opponent happened to have a large area attack technique. Stella, Kuragane Shizuku, and Nagi Arisuan's matches had all concluded yesterday. The matches were rather uneventful. The 3 girls had used overwhelming strength to force their opponents into immediate surrender. The difference wasn't just in skill level but also in resolve. The most injured person in the entire tournament was Yuri Oriki, who vomited blood 3 times while commentating. Absurd. With everyone victorious, they decided to celebrate. Walking along, Ikki Kuragane commented, "That key reading ability is truly amazing. It's like seeing a whole other layer to the world." Drake waved his hand dismissively. "I'm more impressed by you, mastering it in just one morning. But it's not surprising given your concentration." Ikki Kuragane laughed. "Not really, I only fully grasped it during the match. And I feel like there's still room for further improvement in this ability." Kuragane Shizuku intently watched Drake and Ikki Kuragane. After just one day apart, it felt like something had changed between them. A strange sense of foreboding made her want to draw her device immediately. Turning her head, she saw Stella also wearing a wary expression. The 2 girls exchanged glances, and instantly, as if telepathically connected, they nodded at each other. Nagi Arisuan was enjoying the unfolding drama immensely. It was a shame that Kagami had gone to cover the selection tournament and wasn't here, she was missing a great show. Drake suddenly said, "Ikki, you, having learned key reading, felt it too, didn't you?" Ikki Kuragane replied, "Ah. Although their skills are quite good, I could clearly sense their presence through their key." "Hey. You two, stop speaking in riddles that others can't understand." Stella and Kuragane Shizuku complained simultaneously. They didn't want to be left out of the conversation. At the same time, they became even more wary of the unspoken understanding between Drake and Ikki Kuragane. Drake said, "Let's be clear, those 2 have been following us since a while ago. We don't recall ever meeting them, so is there anything you need to say directly?" "Oops, we've been discovered." 2 individuals wearing Hagen Academy uniforms emerged from behind a nearby tree. The speaker was the lively girl with wheat-colored skin. Beside her stood a tall man with a buzz cut. Drake looked at the 2 of them and said, "Aren't these 2 the members of the student council? You 2 wouldn't be following us just to watch, would you?" These 2 were quite famous within Hagen Academy, and Drake naturally recognized them immediately. Hagen Academy's 3rd-ranked, Runners High, Renren Tomaru, and 4th-ranked, Destroyer, Ikazuki Saiju. This ranking wasn't limited to their own grade level. Hagen Academy conducted rankings of all its students at the end of each academic year. Furthermore, the rankings weren't based on ability values but on the results of practical training classes. These two had achieved third and fourth place in these rankings. Without a doubt, these two were undoubtedly among the academy's elite. Moreover, both of them had joined the student council in their first year. Renren Tomaru held the position of administrative management within the student council, while Ikazuki Saiju served as the secretary. Drake simply wasn't sure whether these two were present for personal reasons or on behalf of the student council. Renren Tomaru, clearly a very talkative and outgoing person, waved her hand dismissively. Don't be so wary. We have absolutely no ill intentions. People who casually stalk others have no right to say such a thing. Kurigane Shizuku retorted, not concealing her hostility in the slightest. This girl would show no mercy to anyone who might be tailing her brother. She could easily turn hostile at any moment, believe it or not. Renren Tomaru quickly said, I understand, we were wrong, we apologize. So please calm down and listen to what I have to say. Iki Kurigane also restrained Kurigane Shizuku, saying, these two are after all seniors from the student council, so Shizuku, please listen to what they have to say first. Renren Tomaru, seeing Kurigane Shizuku being pacified by Iki Kurigane, let out a sigh of relief. The reason we came to see you all is twofold. Firstly, we wanted to meet some of the outstanding first years. After all, we're likely to encounter each other in the selection tournament. So it was to gather information after all. Kurigane Shizuku even drew her small katana device. Thankfully, Iki Kurigane managed to stop her in time. Even so, it still startled Renren Tomaru quite a bit. Ikazuki Saiju sighed and stepped forward. Of course, besides that, we have another purpose. We have witnessed your prowess on the battlefield and have come to ask, would you be willing to join our student council? Ikazuki Saiju's tone and phrasing felt somewhat strange, but at least it was possible to understand what he was saying. Incidentally, the student council's recruitment of first years was precisely at this time. However, it was typically the case that those who were interested would submit an application, and the student council would then review the application and decide whether or not to accept them. It was unexpected that the student council members would proactively extend an invitation. But upon further consideration, it made sense. All the most outstanding students in the first year were gathered here, so it wasn't surprising that the student council would extend an olive branch. A chance encounter. The invitation to join the student council was so sudden that none of them reacted immediately. Ikazuki Saiju, observing their surprise, said, the plan was for the president to invite you personally after assessment. My companion was too curious, so she came to observe. If we caused any trouble, we apologize. Ikazuki Saiju patted Renren Tomaru's head, sighing. Renren Tomaru swatted his hand away. You were curious about this year's famous freshman, don't put it all on me. Watching them bicker, Drake understood. The student council's troublemakers were curious about the famous first years and used the assessment as an excuse to observe them. Drake wasn't here to enjoy campus life, he wasn't interested in the student council. Surprisingly, the others also politely declined. Joining the student council symbolized elite status, but they all had reasons to decline. Renren Tomaru and Ikazuki Saiju didn't mind, they asked them to reconsider. Life became routine, classes, training, matches. Drake lived a regular, uneventful life. The intra-school selection tournament progressed, everyone had 6 or 7 matches. According to Kurono Shinguji, to qualify for the 7-Star Sword Festival, they needed to win every match. Only Drake's group remained undefeated. Iki Kurigane also won every match, his title changed from worst one to another one. His last opponent was Renren Tomaru, Iki subdued her within 5 seconds. Renren Tomaru's ability was infinite acceleration, it was powerful. Accumulating speed surpassed human perception, most would be defeated before they could react. However, if interrupted, she had to start over, her own reactions couldn't keep up with her speed. Within Iki Kurigane's attack range, Renren Tomaru was captured and subdued, losing her ability to resist and forfeiting. Stella overpowered Ikazuki Saiju, a power type, demonstrating the weight of A rank. Another weekend arrived, Drake and Stella trained as usual. Stella no longer collapsed after long runs, she might be A rank now. After the run, Drake gave Stella a sports drink. She drank it readily. Drake had noticed Stella's metabolism was faster than normal. She ate 6 or 7 times more than others. The cafeteria got a special rice cooker for her. Drake suspected it was related to her unawakened abilities. If she was a dragon-type concept interference user, her appetite and metabolism made sense. As her teacher, Drake provided sports drinks. Stella, who initially blushed, now accepted them naturally. Stella finished the drink. Where are Iki and Shizuku? Drake replied, we met Senpei Ayatsuji Ayas, there's a problem at her home. Iki went to help. Shizuku went too. Iki-san meddles too much, he has his own problems and still helps others. Stella said. Drake waved his hand. It involves the last samurai, he's one of Iki's idols. 2 days ago, Iki found someone following him, third-year Ayatsuji Ayas. She was extremely shy, she followed Iki because she admired his swordsmanship and wanted guidance. Iki never refused requests, he taught Ayatsuji Ayas, despite Shizuku's displeasure. He corrected her stance by touching her thighs. She didn't faint. Iki learned about Ayatsuji Ayasa's situation. Unlike Iki, she'd learned swordsmanship from her father, Ayatsuji Kato, the last samurai, who displayed amazing swordsmanship in various competitions, despite not being a sword master. However, the last samurai had a problem and was hospitalized, still unconscious. Iki was busy with this, Drake wasn't interested in the details. After the run, Drake and Stella sparred. Stella didn't need swordsmanship, unleashing her power was enough. But combat skills needed training, awakening power and mastering it were different. Stella swung levitating, attacking Drake relentlessly. Her attacks, strong enough to overpower Ikazuki Saiju, were countered by Drake. Drake even pointed out her flaws. With no classes or matches, they trained until the sun was high. Stella's sword vanished, she sat panting. Drake turned, her breathing caused incredible ki fluctuations, was this even scientific? Drake helped Stella to the cafeteria. After a meal, she'd recover. Drake looked at the towering plates and the nearly empty giant rice cooker. Thankfully, Stella was a princess, otherwise, no one could afford to feed her. But, Drake looked at Stella's flat stomach, where did all that food go? His gaze shifted upwards, he seemed to find the answer. Leaving the cafeteria, they headed towards the dormitory. Stella was talking to Drake, unaware of someone approaching around the corner. Drake saw them and stopped Stella from colliding. The person jumped, falling backward. She was carrying a stack of files taller than herself, obscuring her face. She tripped, dropping the files. Drake saw her back, a chestnut-haired girl with 3 braids. Stella covered Drake's eyes. Drake, what are you looking at? That girl's underwear is showing. Ah. Sorry. My glasses, where are they? Drake facepalmed, she hadn't done anything wrong, she fell because they startled her. Was she airheaded? Found them. The girl's voice rang out. Stella removed her hand after the girl composed herself. The girl adjusted her glasses and brushed herself off, she'd been looking for her glasses. Drake and Stella helped her pick up the files. When Drake handed her the files, he saw her face. He realized they'd encountered a prominent figure at Hagen Academy. The hard-working student council president. The girl took the files from Drake, saying, "Thank you so much." Drake replied politely, "Not at all. If it weren't for us, you wouldn't have fallen." Stella added, "Sorry, I was careless." The girl adjusted her glasses. "It's my fault too. And, the honorifics are too formal." Drake shook his head. "You're a third-year senpei, and the student council president, honorifics are appropriate." The slightly airheaded girl was Hagen Academy's student council president, the strongest student knight, the top-ranked, Tuka Tudo. Tuka Tudo, a B-rank sword master, wielded the Japanese blade, Kaminari Kami, and controlled lightning through electromagnetic manipulation. Her ultimate technique was Reikiri, a super-speed swordsmanship that could cut even lightning. It was so powerful that she'd never lost a fight. Her title was also Reikiri. Last year, at the 7-Star Sword Festival, she only got 4th place because she faced the reigning champion, Yudai Moribashi, in the semi-finals. Even Yudai Moribashi didn't directly face Tuka Tudo's Reikiri, he used tactics to seal it, defeating her before she could draw her sword. But Tuka Tudo wasn't just skilled with her ability, her martial arts were also top tier at Hagen Academy. Like Nishimiya Neon, she was a secret disciple of the fighting god, Nango Tarajiro. Drake had watched her matches. Her opponents were too weak. She never showed her true skills, some even surrendered immediately. Stella examined Tukatudo. She'd been focused on whether Drake had seen her underwear. Now she noticed Tukatudo's identity. The student council president, Reikiri herself. Dismissing the possibility of airheadedness being contagious, Drake noticed Stella was a little dazed. Tukatudo blushed. The student council president is just a service position, it's nothing special. Drake said, it's not the position, it's Senpei Tukatudo. Tukatudo said, no, you're amazing too. Drake and Stella-san from year 1. Tukatudo recognized them, they were prominent figures at Hagen Academy. Drake wasn't surprised. Picking up the remaining files, he said, no need for pleasantries, let us help. Carrying all this is hard. Tukatudo said, really? Thank you. The files were easily divided, the weight was nothing to sword masters of their level. On the way to the student council room, Drake and Stella saw Tukatudo's popularity. Everyone greeted her respectfully, she knew everyone's name. The student council room was surprisingly far, they walked for 5 or 6 minutes. Tukatudo stood at the door. Thank you for your help. Please have tea, Kitihara-san brought excellent tea. Drake nodded. We'll intrude. Stella. Stella said, me too, I'm thirsty. Tukatudo opened the door, then. Oof. That hurt. She tripped over something, her underwear showed again. Drake turned away. Stella didn't cover his eyes. She said, I think we could make a lot of money putting ads on that senpai's underwear. Drake confirmed Stella wasn't normal either. Ouch. What happened? The unexpected trap made Tukatudo speak in dialect. She looked behind her, turning pale. What is this? Drake's dynamic vision was amazing, he'd seen the room in a glance. The bookshelves and drawers were in place, but books and items were scattered. Tukatudo had tripped over a dumbbell. The student council members were gathered in the messy room. Ikazuki Saiju was writing meeting minutes, his notes were remarkably neat. Kanata Tutokubara, in a dress, elegantly poured tea for him. The other two were indescribable. Drake hadn't met the student council vice president, Utakata Masogi, she was engrossed in a video game. Renren Tomaru was watching and using resistance bands. Renren Tomaru was only wearing a thin tank top and underwear, she looked disheveled. Oh. The president's back. Welcome back. Haha. Toka's so clumsy, she fell again. They didn't notice Tukatudo's expression, they spoke freely. Seriously. Tomaru-san, I told you to put the dumbbells away. It's dangerous. Utakata too, put away the manga. You always leave things lying around. I was gone for half a day, why is it this messy? Renren Tomaru and Utakata said, unapologetically, President, why do you assume it was us? Maybe you're wrong. Only Tomaru-san does weight training here, and only you and Utakata leave manga everywhere. Renren Tomaru, unrepentant, explained how she'd made the mess. Tukatudo was sparking with electricity, Kanata Tutokubara reminded her of the guests. Tukatudo, losing her composure, looked at the door after being reminded. They could only offer strained smiles. Tukatudo forced a smile, grabbing the door. Please wait a moment. She closed the door. They heard voices. All right. Everyone, help clean. Utakata, stop playing. Wait. I haven't saved since yesterday. My rare materials. I've said it many times, only 1 hour of gaming a day. And Tomaru-san, why are you dressed like that? There are boys here, at least wear a skirt. Stella held the files. Senpei Todu is like a mother. Drake nodded. The student council president works hard. The legend of the giant of Okutama. Clutching the files, they waited outside, already regretting accepting Tukatudo's invitation. The student council room door opened again shortly afterward. Phew. Sorry to keep you waiting. Please come in. Tukatudo, breathless, ushered them inside. Excuse us. Despite feeling it was inappropriate, upon entering the student council room, Drake subconsciously looked around. Surprisingly, the room was spotless, there was no trace of the previous mess. The scattered books were neatly back on the shelves, the floor gleaming like a mirror. The clean environment, combined with the classical furnishings, made the student council room resemble a castle. It was remarkable that they'd cleaned it so thoroughly in just a few minutes. However, Drake glanced at Ikazuki Saiju standing rigidly before the wardrobe, and the bulging wardrobe door. He decided not to dwell on it. They sat on the sofa. The student council members took their seats. Renren Tomaru greeted them first. Long time no see. Drake nodded. Yes, last time was at Iki's match. Ah. Don't remind me of that unpleasant memory. Tuka Tudo said, be polite to guests. Kanata-san, please make tea. Kanata Tutokubara, the student council treasurer, was the one who'd provided the tea. The Kanata surname was unusual. While not as famous as Kurogane in the Swordmaster world, their influence in business and politics surpassed even the Kurogane family. Kanata Tutokubara, born into that prominent family, exuded elegance. Unlike the others in school uniforms, she wore a white dress and a wide-brimmed hat, her eyes hidden beneath the brim. She carried a white parasol, even indoors. She looked like a noble lady. But Drake wasn't fooled. She was as dangerous as Tuka Tudo. Her sword master title was Charlotte Frau. Unlike Tuka Tudo, Kanata Tutokubara's ki was colder. It was the result of hands stained with blood. The rumors about Kanata Tutokubara working with licensed sword masters weren't baseless. Drake took a sip of tea. He didn't know much about tea, but it was delicious. Either the tea leaves were excellent, or Kanata Tutokubara was a skilled tea maker. Tutokubara, I want some too. This was Ohara Yutaba, after her scolding. Renren Tomaru said, Senpei Tutokubara, I want cake. Tuka Tudo said angrily, no, you two get no sweets today. Tuka, that's too much. Why should we stay in the student council room without sweets? Tuka Tudo facepalmed, groaning, because you're student council members. Drake pitied the hard-working president. Managing these troublesome members was exhausting. Ikazuki Saiju, leaning against the wardrobe, looked at Drake and Stella, admiringly saying to Tuka Tudo, as expected of the president, your work efficiency is godlike. You found the perfect assistants. Their fighting strength is more than sufficient. Assistants. Fighting strength. Drake and Stella were puzzled. Tuka Tudo hadn't mentioned this. Huh. Tuka Tudo also looked confused. Ikazuki Saiju quickly said, isn't that right? Such rare guests must be here for this. Kanata Tutokubara, seeing Tuka Tudo's confusion, said, President, it's the matter the principal entrusted us with. The Tuka Tudo remembered. Shinguji-san asked us, did you forget? I thought you invited them to help before going, Kanata Tutokubara said, smiling. Tuka Tudo groaned, holding her head. Yes, I was focused on my next match, I completely forgot. Stella tentatively asked, what's this matter? Kanata Tutokubara answered, pouring tea. The student council received a request from the principal. Before the 7-Star Sword Festival, Hagen Academy holds intensive training for the representatives. The training facility is in Okutama, but there have been reports of suspicious individuals near Okutama recently. Sounds dangerous. Stella said. Drake nodded. Okutama was a mountainous area far from the city. Hagen Academy had a training camp there. It had many mountains and forests. Suspicious individuals could cause trouble during training. Kanata Tutokubara continued, the teachers are busy with the selection tournament. The principal asked the student council, at least the executives, to investigate and confirm safety. But Okutama is vast, with mountains and forests, the student council executives alone are insufficient. Drake stroked his chin. So you need more people. Stella raised her hand like a student. What do the suspicious individuals look like? Any other information? Drake was also interested. Okutama wasn't restricted, there might be hikers. What kind of suspicious individuals would make Shinguji Kurono ask the student council to investigate? Kanata Tutokubara hesitated, then said, the suspicious individuals are said to be about 4 meters tall, giants. What? Giants. Drake was stunned. Were there fantasy creatures in this world? 4 meters was not a normal human height, only legendary giants were that large. Are there really giants? Stella was interested. Drake pulled Stella's sleeve. Stella, you're too excited. Stella exclaimed, because it's a giant. An unidentified creature. It's romantic. Her red eyes shone, she was excited. Are you a child? Drake facepalmed. Stella was surprisingly naive. Renren Tomaru, finding a kindred spirit, said, Stella-san likes unidentified creatures too. Stella replied excitedly, of course. I learned Japanese from adventure program DVDs. Her method of learning Japanese was unique, everyone thought. We have much in common. Renren Tomaru said, if it weren't for the situation, she'd talk to Stella. Stella said to Drake, Drake, the president looks troubled, let's help. I want to see a giant. Drake looked at Stella. The second part was the key, she'd openly stated her selfish desire. But Drake was also interested in the giants. He knew they were likely sword masters using their abilities. Their purpose was concerning. Seeing Drake nod, Tuka Tudo said hesitantly, is that alright? Drake looked at Tuka Tudo, unsure why she hesitated. Kanata Tudokubara said, you don't know yet. The president's next opponent. Kurigane Shizuku, she's your friend, right? The power of Reikiri. Tuka Tudo's concerns about conflict were unfounded. Even if Tuka Tudo and Kurigane Shizuku were to face each other in the next match, as long as the competition was fair and reasonable, even Ikki Kurigane, as her brother, wouldn't have reason to oppose Tuka Tudo. After allaying Tuka Tudo's concerns, Drake agreed to help investigate Okutama. After bidding farewell to the student council members, they planned to find Ikki Kurigane and Kurigane Shizuku. However, neither Ikki Kurigane nor Kurigane Shizuku responded to Drake's contact. Fortunately, Nagi Arisuin, who was with them, could be reached. Nagi Arisuin directed them to a hospital. Seeing Ikki Kurigane, bandaged from head to toe, Drake understood Tuka Tudo's feelings. How long have we been apart? What happened to you? Before Ikki Kurigane could speak, Ayatsuji Ayas said, I'm sorry, it's because of me that Ikki-san was injured. Nagi Arisuin explained, Ikki Kurigane had fought Kurado Kurashiki from Donru Academy, resulting in his injuries. Drake had heard of Kurado Kurashiki, a sword master who'd shown promise at last year's 7-Star Sword Festival. His title was quite arrogant, Sword Eater. He hadn't challenged Nango Tarajiro, though. Drake had thought he was a clown, but to injure Ikki Kurigane so badly, Kurado Kurashiki must have some skill. The problem was that it was a private fight, they couldn't use regeneration pods. Fortunately, Ikki Kurigane's next opponent wasn't strong, otherwise, his tournament would be over. You had fun, didn't you? Drake said, smiling, he knew Ikki Kurigane well. Ikki Kurigane was overly kind, but Drake sensed his duel with Kurado Kurashiki wasn't just to help Ayatsuji Ayas. Ikki Kurigane enjoyed fighting, the duel was exhilarating. Ikki Kurigane laughed. The Sword Eater was a good opponent, I look forward to meeting him at the 7-Star Sword Festival. Drake said, don't lose to him. Ikki Kurigane looked at Drake. Of course, I'm your rival, I won't lose to anyone easily. Kurigane Shizuku and Stella sensed danger and separated them. Kurigane Shizuku held Ikki Kurigane down. What's so urgent? Stella said, Shizuku, check your student council email, your next match is scheduled. Kurigane Shizuku guessed. My opponent must be strong. Drake replied, the student council president, Reikiri. Kurigane Shizuku was silent. A formidable opponent. Ikki Kurigane worried, Shizuku. Kurigane Shizuku interrupted. Don't worry, brother. I'll face any opponent, watch my fight. Ikki Kurigane knew he couldn't say anything else. He just needed to watch his sisters fight. The day of the match arrived, the group sat in the audience. Drake had seen Tuka Tudo's popularity, the enthusiastic cheers weren't surprising. Kurigane Shizuku was also popular, but less so. Fortunately, she didn't mind. The buzzer sounded. Splash. Yoishigure. Roar. Narakami. They drew their Japanese-style devices, a wakizashi and a katana. They circled the arena, keeping their distance. In past 7-Star Sword festivals, most champions were B rank, both had the potential to be champions. Caution was necessary. Kurigane Shizuku couldn't block Reikiri, she needed distance. Drake guessed Tuka Tudo would strike first. After a minute, Tuka Tudo, surrounded by electricity, approached Kurigane Shizuku. Kurigane Shizuku expected this and was prepared. Freeze everything. Tudo Heigen. Ice spread from Kurigane Shizuku's feet. Tuka Tudo, on the slippery ice, used the slide to accelerate. She dodged Kurogane Shizuku's 3 water prison bullets. This was Hagen Academy's top-ranked Reikiri. Her combat reflexes and experience surpassed Kurogane Shizuku's. Tuka Tudo struck. It wasn't Reikiri, but it unleashed searing lightning. Kurogane Shizuku raised a water wall, her ultimate technique, Shoha Suiren. Purified by Kurogane Shizuku's A-rank magic control, the wall was pure, non-conductive water. The lightning shattered and evaporated part of the wall but didn't harm Kurogane Shizuku. Tuka Tudo continued attacking. Continuous lightning overwhelmed Kurogane Shizuku. Ikki Kurogane and Drake admired Tuka Tudo's sharpness. The lightning was a normal attack. Kurogane Shizuku needed to purify the water. Her attacks were faster than Kurogane Shizuku's defense. She chose continuous attacks. But Drake wasn't worried. Kurogane Shizuku wasn't easy to defeat. Kurogane Shizuku counterattacked. Water arms emerged, grabbing Tuka Tudo's leg and freezing it. A circular ice block fell towards Tuka Tudo. Kurogane Shizuku wasn't just defending, she'd created water arms to restrain Tuka Tudo and used the evaporated water to create ice pillars. Multitasking, only Kurogane Shizuku's magic control could achieve this. It was a trap. But when the dust settled, Tuka Tudo was unharmed. Kurogane Shizuku's trap was clever, but she underestimated Tuka Tudo. Evenly matched. Ikki Kurogane's tone lacked joy. They'd analyzed that to defeat Reikiri, they needed to prevent her from using her ultimate technique and gain a 70% advantage at the start. Now it was evenly matched. The situation was unfavorable for Kurogane Shizuku. Stella noticed something. The president is nearsighted. She's not wearing glasses. Is she holding back? Drake shook his head. The opposite. Tuka Senpai is a lightning mage. She senses electromagnetic signals, including the body's neural signals. She's not wearing glasses to weaken her vision and enhance other senses. By sensing her opponent's neural signals, she reacts faster. This is Hagen Academy's strongest. She's almost flawless. Conspiracy and enemies. Kurogane Shizuku was undeniably defeated. Even giving her all, she was cut down by Reikiri. Despite proving her growth and strength, she wept. Drake understood her frustration. Losing to Tuka Tudo wasn't the issue. Not being able to participate in the 7-Star Sword Festival with her brother was what she couldn't accept. However, comforting her was Ikki Kurogane's job. Nagi Arisuin was also there as a true best friend. Drake had no place in that. For Drake, the Okutama trip was crucial. But unbeknownst to him, more than one conspiracy was brewing in the shadows, and he was caught in the crossfire. Shinjuku was one of Tokyo's most bustling areas. Among the forest of skyscrapers, a 30-story building stood out. This was the International Magic Knight Alliance's Japanese branch. The branch head's office was on the top floor. Although it was night, the office was dark. Through the bright neon lights of Shinjuku, a figure could be seen sitting there. The man who controlled all of Japan's sword masters, the head of the Kurogane family, Iron-Blood Itsuki Kurogane. Before him sat a fat middle-aged man with a fawning smile, resembling the Ebisu god enshrined in shrines. His attitude was due to their relationship, branch head and subordinate. The man's name was Akaza Mamoru, the head of a Kurogane branch family. Regarding Ikki Kurogane, you say you have a brilliant plan. Itsuki Kurogane looked directly at Akaza Mamoru, clearly interested. As you know, if this continues, Ikki Kurogane might get a spot at the 7-Star Sword Festival. That would be troublesome. It's hard to believe Itsuki Kurogane is Ikki Kurogane's father. He seems like an implacable enemy. This is because Ikki Kurogane's activities contradict Itsuki Kurogane's beliefs and challenge his methods of managing Japan's sword masters. Therefore, Itsuki Kurogane would do anything to remove Ikki Kurogane from the sword master world, even if he's his son. Akaza Mamoru sensed this and saw an opportunity for advancement. Head of the family, rest assured. He's just a student, he doesn't know the dangers of the adult world. Leave this to me, Akaza Mamoru. Ikki Kurogane will never be your problem again. Akaza Mamoru's plump face showed a suspicious smile. Unlike the Alliance's Japanese branch in the bustling city, this place was in the wilderness, like a villain's hideout. Like Itsuki Kurogane's office, it lacked light, but this room had a swamp-like atmosphere. Perhaps this was due to the different key in the room. A large screen illuminated part of a sofa and the legs of the person sitting on it. His face was hidden in the darkness, but his visible clothes were clown-like. Surprisingly, the screen showed recordings of Hagen Academy's intra-school tournament. Different matches were shown in separate squares, including Tuka Tudo, Kanata Tudokubara, Stella, and Drake's matches. My. Hagen Academy is impressive this year, so many strong individuals. Thinking about them as potential opponents gives me a headache. The clown didn't seem worried. He was confident in his forces. He didn't know all of their identities, but the two he contacted weren't simple. The most reliable was beside him. Leaning against the wall, hidden in the darkness, was a tall boy. He watched the screen, focusing on two matches, Stella and Drake's. The clown noticed. The Crimson Princess might be. No, she'll definitely be a target. I heard you agreed to this operation to see her. The boy's voice was cold. The Crimson Princess is too naive. I want to fight another man. The clown followed his gaze, a boy enveloped in flames, like Stella. The exchange student from Shinryu Temple, Drake, he's impressive. He's strong, he hasn't been serious. Only once. The boy seemed to recall something unpleasant and stopped. The clown, oblivious, said, your mock battle with your brother. Strange, his only serious match was with your simple brother. The boy said coldly, I said I have no connection to the Kurogane family. The boy's last name was Kurogane, he was Ikki Kurogane's brother. This family's relationships are strange. A father who sees his son as an enemy, a brother who cut ties with the family, and a brother-obsessed sister. Ikki Kurogane had it rough, he ran away, so it's fine. The boy's gaze swept over Ikki Kurogane's match, his expression was unchanged. So cold. The clown teased. The boy didn't want to continue, he didn't like the clown and turned to leave. The clown remained seated, his gaze fixed on Stella and Drake's matches. He leaned forward, revealing a stiff, malicious smile. The boy, though facing away, seemed to see it. Clown, I don't know what you're doing, but don't do anything pointless before the pre-festival starts. I'm a student, I don't understand military tactics. But you're from the army, you can't act rashly before an operation. The clown didn't care. But just waiting is boring. It's not fun. I hate things that aren't fun. I'm Pierrot, I must always smile. Whether doing good or bad, a clown must enjoy it. The boy found this incomprehensible. You're the same, I don't understand. Do as you please, don't interfere with me. The clown was excited. That's good. If a clown were easily understood, it wouldn't be fun. The boy coldly said, if you interfere, I'll be the first to eliminate you. Don't scare me. I'm a clown, I only do things for fun. The boy left without stopping. The clown moved his fingers, muttering, who will come? How will the new puppet perform? This is interesting. Illness and confession. 2 more matches were successfully completed. The weekend arrived, the day Drake and the student council executives were to go to Okutama. They traveled in a van driven by Ikazuki Saiju, arriving in Okutama after a morning's drive. Upon arrival, they split into 2 groups. Kanata Tudokubara and Ikazuki Saiju went to question the administrator, while the others began preparing lunch. Okutama was vast and complex, the investigation wouldn't be quick. After the long journey, they needed to replenish their energy. Turning work into a camping trip seemed excessive. Not only had they borrowed cooking equipment, but Tuka Tudo had also brought a lot of ingredients. As someone asked for help, Drake knew refusing Tuka Tudo's hospitality would be difficult, so he only helped with the preparation. Drake used a kitchen knife to chop onions, potatoes, and carrots into bite-sized pieces. While not a skilled cook, his muscle control made chopping easy. Stella didn't help, her absence was a blessing. The princess was exceptionally inept at cooking and posed a significant risk of setting the kitchen on fire. She was playing badminton with Renren Tomaru in a clearing. Stella's homeland in northern Europe had a dry, cool climate. Japan's humid, sweltering summer was difficult for her. Okutama's mountain air was more comfortable, she was very energetic. Drake was relieved, or not. She was too energetic. Playing badminton like tennis was one thing, but playing it like a deadly game of killer tennis. Weren't they worried about copyright infringement? Ignoring the game with its unclear rules, Drake's gaze drifted to Tuka Tudo by the stove. Surprisingly, Utakata Masogi wasn't causing trouble with Renren Tomaru, she was helping cook. Drake noticed their excellent coordination. They completed the cooking steps smoothly, communicating with just glances. Drake had long noticed the close bond between Kanata Tutokubara, Utakata Masogi, and Tuka Tudo. They seemed to have known each other for a long time, using first names instead of honorifics. But Drake was drawn to Tuka Tudu's current demeanor. She was making country-style curry, adding the ingredients Drake had chopped. This Tuka Tudo was completely different from the Reikiri on the battlefield or the slightly dazed girl he'd first met. Stella had previously compared Tuka Tudo to a mother, referring to her concern for the troublesome student council members. But now, Drake sensed a gentle, kind maternal aura from Tuka Tudo. Tuka Tudo clearly carried unseen burdens. She'd become strong for others, that's why she'd reached this point. However, this might be hindering her further growth. To break fate and become a demon, one needs unwavering will and self-awareness. Living solely for others could easily lead to self-loss. Drake didn't have time to worry about others, he could only silently wish this girl well. Tuka Tudu's cooking was excellent. Drake ate several large bowls. Stella, however, didn't seem to have much of an appetite. After lunch, once everyone had mostly finished digesting, Tuka Tudo divided them into pairs. For mutual support and to prevent accidents, they would search the mountain area in pairs. Drake and Stella were naturally paired. After tidying up, they set off to climb the mountain. They entered their assigned area. Because Okutama was built as a training facility for sword masters, the mountain paths were unlike ordinary ones, exceptionally steep and rugged. But challenging paths alone weren't enough to train sword masters. In addition to the difficult terrain, there were unexpected attacks. Drake caught a venomous snake that dropped from a tree branch and threw it far away. Several venomous snakes had appeared along the way, prompting Drake to warn, Stella, be careful. There seemed to be quite a few venomous snakes here, a bite would be very troublesome. He heard Stella's weak response and stopped, turning around. Stella had been eagerly anticipating this investigation. Drake had expected her to be enthusiastically leading the way, but she seemed unusually listless. What's wrong? Still upset about losing to Renren Senpai earlier. Drake pondered, there seemed to be no other reason for Stella's low spirits. Stella denied it, it's not that. Her tone, however, lacked conviction, suggesting she herself wasn't sure why she felt so unwell. Drake didn't press further, simply advising Stella to be extra cautious. But many things were beyond Drake's expectations, such as the weather. The clear blue sky of the morning had become gray, a damp wind began to blow through the forest. Mountain weather was notoriously fickle, but Drake hadn't anticipated such a rapid change. And worst of all was Stella's current condition. Although Stella insisted she was fine, Drake had been observing her closely and quickly noticed something was amiss. The mountain temperature had noticeably dropped, yet Stella's face was flushed, her forehead covered in sweat. The sweat wasn't limited to her forehead, she was sweating profusely all over her body. Seeing her weakened state, Drake instantly understood. Stella, are you feeling unwell? Drake approached Stella, who was leaning against a tree for support, asking with concern. Sorry, I've felt heavy since a while ago, nauseous, and dizzy. What's wrong with me? Am I going to die? Stella was unusually vulnerable, appearing almost pitifully fragile. Drake said, don't talk nonsense, you've just caught a common cold. With proper rest, you'll recover quickly, but given your current condition, we need to head down immediately. Can you still walk on your own? Despite the mental fog brought on by illness, Stella replied with surprising clarity, no, I have absolutely no strength left. Drake sighed, turning and crouching down in front of her. I'll carry you. It looks like it's about to rain, we absolutely have to get down the mountain quickly. Okay. Stella agreed, immediately leaning against Drake's back. Her already flushed face became even redder. The moment Stella leaned against him, Drake felt a surge of something in his chest. Stella's body temperature was normally higher than average. Now, even through her clothing, she felt intensely warm. Especially the feeling of his hands supporting her legs, it was as if he were touching the finest, warmest jade. Her sweat also gave off a uniquely moist sensation, and the scent wafting from her constantly stirred Drake's senses. However, within mere seconds, these romantic thoughts vanished. Drake could feel Stella's rapid, shallow breathing against his back, her breath on his neck, prompting him to feel a surge of protectiveness towards the ailing girl. Sword masters of Stella's caliber possessed robust constitutions and rarely fell ill. But precisely because of this, when they did become ill, they tended to be far more vulnerable than others. This was the case with Stella. She had never experienced this kind of weakness before, which was why she had asked Drake if she was going to die. Although she knew it was just a cold, the underlying feeling of unease hadn't entirely dissipated. If I really am going to die, I can't leave any regrets. With this thought in mind, Stella felt a surge of unusual courage amidst her anxiety. Drake, I have something to tell you. Drake, hurrying down the mountain path, replied, I'm listening. Don't worry, we'll be down the mountain very soon. Stella bit her lip. We first met at the airport, right? It didn't sound like a question. Stella continued, even then, I felt like there was some kind of connection between us. And then the principal said we'd be sharing a dorm, but you rejected me so quickly, I was really quite unhappy about that. Drake felt as if Stella had reverted to being a child. Her voice had a distinctly coquettish quality. After that, I saw your strength, so I set you, Drake, as my goal, the person I want to surpass. Unknowingly, my eyes just couldn't be pulled away from you. Drake slowed his pace. Even he, despite his usual lack of romantic awareness, could sense what Stella was about to say. And then, on the shopping street, you protected me. You were really cool back then. But you, Drake, spend more time with Iki Kurigane than with me, and losing to a man in matters of the heart is something I absolutely cannot accept. A bead of sweat trickled down Drake's forehead. Was Stella delirious from the fever, speaking such strange words? Stella, as if summoning every ounce of her strength, declared firmly, so, Drake, I'm telling you now. I like you an awful lot. No matter what your answer is, my feelings will not change. Drake stopped completely, his mind flooded with memories of his daily life with the girl. Drake was, after all, a man. It was impossible to say he felt absolutely nothing for a girl like Stella. But upon reflection, Stella attracted him for far more than just her appearance. Her kindness, enduring humiliation for the sake of others, and her unwavering strength, training even until vomiting, the girl who was like a flame had unknowingly left such a deep impression on him. Even her occasional bouts of absent-mindedness had become endearing quirks. Stella, you may not understand me well enough yet. If, after knowing everything about me, you still haven't changed your mind, then we'll become a couple. Drake said calmly. He could feel Stella's face pressed firmly against his back, and he heard her slightly muffled voice. I'm very stubborn, I'll absolutely never easily change my mind. But, I'll listen to everything you have to tell me, Drake. The attack. After Stella's confession, Drake acknowledged his own feelings. But because of this, carrying Stella, Drake felt additional anxiety beyond his worry. He knew Stella only had a cold, but he couldn't help worrying about her condition worsening, about her discomfort. As if fate was against him, a raindrop fell on Drake's head. He saw spots of water on the ground, quickly spreading and merging. Within seconds, a torrential downpour began. This was bad news for Stella, who already had a fever. Getting wet could worsen her illness. Drake waved his hand. A large sheet of flames appeared above them, instantly evaporating the rain before it reached Stella. So warm. Stella, eyes hazy, looked at the flames above and hugged Drake tighter. Drake knew it wasn't easy. Flames weren't suitable for creating sustained, fixed shapes, and his ability wasn't flame control. Creating a rain shield was a strain. He needed shelter. He remembered a hut from earlier. They quickly found it. It was well prepared. It had a fireplace, firewood, towels, and blankets. Drake built a fire. The hut warmed up. Stella, on a small bed, held a towel, blushing. Drake, I'm sweating, it's uncomfortable. Drake understood. Stella had sweated profusely, soaking her clothes. Drying her was necessary to prevent hypothermia. But this was a test. Taking the towel, Drake swallowed. Stella blushed, unbuttoning her shirt. Drake saw her fair skin. His hands trembled, but seeing Stella's closed eyes, he calmed down. He wasn't driven by lust. He wanted attention with Stella, but this wasn't the time. He gently dried her forehead and neck, then covered her with a blanket. Bear with it. We'll go down once the rain stops. Stella acted like an ostrich. She didn't know why she'd given Drake such suggestive hints. She was so embarrassed. It must be the illness, it must have made her lose her mind. Drake took out his student council handbook. The signal was good. He contacted Kanata Tudokubara at the base. Tuka Tudo and Utakata Masogi were also on the mountain, but no rain fell on them. Utakata Masogi, whose title was 50-50, had the rare causality interference ability. His ultimate technique was absolute uncertainty, manipulating event probabilities. He could make anything with a chance of happening, however small, absolutely happen. Preventing rain wasn't difficult. This ability had a flaw: it couldn't make impossible things happen. For example, in gacha games, she could get any character, no matter how rare, but not limited time characters. This is why Utakata Masogi didn't participate in the selection tournament. It was about raw strength, she couldn't win against unbeatable opponents. They found tracks, the ground was overturned, even the deeper soil was exposed. Something had emerged from the ground. Many trees were broken, as if a huge creature had passed. They even saw a uprooted tree. Only a legendary giant could cause this. They found a clear footprint. Based on its size, if the creature was human-like, it was at least 5 meters tall. There really are giants. Utakata Masogi exclaimed. Tuka Tudo frowned. She was in charge of the investigation, but she hadn't believed in giants. She was at a loss when her student council handbook rang. It's Kanata. What happened? Stella-san is ill. Rescue is on its way. That's good. Tell them to be careful. We found tracks, there might be clues about the giants. I'm worried about Stella-san. I'll go support them. Understood, thank you. Utakata Masogi understood. Toka's still the same, she can't ignore sick people. Tuka Tudo paused, remembering something. Utakata Masogi patted her. Stop reminiscing. You're worried about Stella-san, let's go. After contacting Kanata Tudokubara, Drake replaced Stella's forehead towel. Stella was asleep. Drake pulled the blanket higher, then knelt to look at her sleeping face, becoming captivated. He couldn't believe this cute girl was his girlfriend. A corner of his heart felt warm. In his second life, Igneel and Natsu were his family, Asta, Yuno, the church members, and the Black Bulls. In this world, he'd bonded with Ikki Kurogane. But Stella was special. He imagined their future together. After a while, Drake saw Stella's eyelids flutter. He quickly moved away. Being seen as a creep would be bad. But Stella had woken up. Drake's intense gaze made her pretend to be asleep. She felt sweet embarrassment. She sensed his feelings. Nothing made her happier. She knew she should wake up. She'd smile uncontrollably. Stella's physique and resistance were strong. After about 30 minutes, she recovered. She wasn't as weak and wasn't sweating. Drake gave her cooled water. You sweated a lot. Drink some water. I contacted Kanata Senpai. Rescue is coming soon. Stella sipped the water. She noticed ripples in the cup, followed by a clear, rhythmic vibration. She looked at Drake. His face was serious. What's wrong? Earthquake. Drake shook his head. He sensed something approaching. Strangely, he couldn't sense its key. But a faint, steady magical fluctuation appeared, getting closer. No good. Drake pushed Stella behind him. The hut's roof shattered, the walls cracked under immense force. The attack had arrived unexpectedly. Puppets. Torrential rain lashed down on the ruined hut. A massive shadow loomed over it, observing the wreckage without moving. The hut contained 2 A-rank sword masters. The previous attack was powerful, but it couldn't have instantly defeated them both. Movement emerged from the debris. The shadow lowered, seemingly inspecting the wreckage. Suddenly, a section of the debris glowed. Boom! A spiraling pillar of fire erupted from the ruins, blasting the massive shadow away. The fire pillar didn't stop, it shot into the storm clouds. The rain evaporated, the clouds dispersed, revealing a blue sky. Stella wouldn't get wet now. Drake scooped Stella into his arms and carefully descended from the ruins. So that's it. Magic thread puppets. The shadow Drake had blasted away was over 5 meters tall, its body composed entirely of rock. It seemed to be the legendary Okutama giant, but Drake sensed it was pure rock, devoid of life. That's why he couldn't sense its key. It moved and attacked because it was controlled by magic threads, a literal puppet. Drake set Stella down, touching her forehead. Wait, I'll handle this. He turned to the shattered giant puppet. the warmth in his eyes vanished, replaced by chilling coldness. He only wanted one thing. If he knew where the puppeteer was hiding, he'd destroy both puppet and puppeteer. A flash of fire. Drake was at the puppet's chest. Fire Dragon's iron fist. The rock puppet was blasted away, shattering into pieces. Drake's punch destroyed the puppet and burned the magic threads. The puppet's most dangerous aspect wasn't its strength but its resilience. Its body was ordinary stone, it could be easily repaired. Only by destroying the magic threads, as Drake had done, could it be completely eliminated. Drake landed, looking at the scattered stones, his anger still simmering. It was just a puppet, eliminating it didn't affect the mastermind. More magical fluctuations appeared. The ground opened, more rock puppets emerged. These weren't as large as the first, only human-sized. But there were many. Drake couldn't use powerful techniques here, he didn't want to burn down the forest. He wasn't sure about Japanese law, but arson could cause an international incident. That's why he'd initially used Fire Dragon's roar upwards. But it was fine, his anger needed an outlet. He could have a good workout. First, he needed to protect Stella. Fal. Drake's grimoire opened itself, Fal emerged. You've been accumulating magic, protect that girl. Fal chirped and flew to Stella. Stella's reaction was adorable, she rubbed her eyes, confirming she wasn't hallucinating. Then she screamed and hugged Fal. Drake remembered Stella's curiosity about unidentified creatures, dragons were the most famous. Fal looked helpless and wronged, Drake gave a thumbs up. Fal, be strong. I support you in spirit. Encouraged, Fal deflated, its neck drooping like a toy, allowing Stella to handle it. Drake, putting aside his guilt, summoned the evil dragon and Dragonslayer onto his arms. He charged towards the rock puppets. Suzaku type. Tenku. Drake punched a puppet, shattering it and destroying the magic threads. A hand strike pierced another puppet. Red light shone through the cracks, it exploded, its threads burning. Grabbing a puppet's head, Drake swung it, smashing several others. He crushed the puppet's head with his fingers. Watching Drake's rampage, Stella, holding Fal, smiled sweetly. This was the man she liked, he could defeat any enemy, no difficulty could stop him. Stella saw several puppets approaching her. Fal, escaping her embrace, showed why Drake had it protect her. Fal inflated like a balloon, becoming a massive creature the size of a truck. This Fal resembled a legendary dragon, a majestic, ferocious creature, its scales, fangs, and muscles displayed its power. Fal swung its tail, smashing the approaching puppets. If Drake hadn't restricted its breath attack, these things would have been instantly eliminated. Drake destroyed another puppet, the number of puppets hadn't decreased. He didn't know what the puppeteer looked like, but he believed this control method had flaws. He'd noticed something. First, he still hadn't found the mastermind, following the magic threads should have been easy. But the threads extended far, beyond his 3-kilometer range. The puppeteer was cautious and far away. Controlling puppets from that distance wasn't easy. He also discovered the puppets were controlled through an intermediary puppet. He'd found the central puppet. Suzaku type. Tenku. Drake flew, smashing puppets, reaching the central puppet. This puppet was more refined, its body had glittering magic threads. In an instant, Drake tore it apart, holding its head. He held the head before him, looking into its eyes. I know you can see. Listen, no matter where you hide, I'll find you. I will. You'll regret this for the rest of your life. In the swamp-like room, the magic thread on the clown's left hand snapped. An intermediary puppet was destroyed. Shinryu Temple's Drake, interesting. The magic thread glowed abnormally, the clown couldn't cut the connection in time. His right arm turned black, a powerful current disabled it. Impressive. But it's fine, let's see what's more interesting. Conspiracy. The Okutama incident wasn't perfectly resolved, they never found out who'd placed the puppets there. Drake learned from Tukatudo that she'd also encountered puppets. Tukatudo concluded that the puppeteer was at least 20 kilometers away. Usually, puppeteers control puppets within a few dozen meters. Controlling them from dozens of meters is rare. Even Tukatudo couldn't imagine anyone controlling puppets from 20 kilometers away. They would deal with it later. Tukatudo urged them to take the ill Stella back down the mountain. The doctor confirmed it was a common summer cold, Stella had already largely recovered thanks to her strong constitution. They'd discovered the truth about the Okutama giant. They returned to Hagen Academy. It was late when they arrived. Ikki Kurogane wasn't in the dorm. The next morning, Ikki Kurogane's bedding was neatly made. No one had slept there. Things were even stranger. Students were whispering about him. Drake was a prominent figure at Hagen Academy, an undefeated contender in the selection tournament. Students had previously looked at him with admiration and respect, but now they showed aversion and suspicion. Drake wasn't disheartened. He was curious about this change. It was strange that he trained very early, yet these students seemed to be waiting just to see him. He met Stella. She was energetic, not like someone who'd been seriously ill. Stella noticed the abnormality. What's going on? The academy feels strange. Drake said helplessly, we were together, how would I know? Ikki was gone all night. I think it's related to him. Let's ask Shizuku. Kagami's your roommate. Did she say anything? Stella shook her head. I was asleep when Kagami returned. She was still asleep this morning. I didn't get a chance to talk. Drake nodded. Let's find Shizuku. They went to Kurogane Shizuku's dorm. Nagi Arisuan answered. Kurogane Shizuku wasn't there. Where's Shizuku? We need to ask her. Drake said bluntly. Nagi Arisuan sighed. You don't know yet. Look at this. She gave Drake her student council handbook. It showed a news article. Wow. What a serious accusation. Drake exclaimed upon seeing the headline. Spy from an ancient great power attacks, lowest traitor to the nation. Drake knew who it was. There was a photo. It was a picture of Drake and Ikki Kurogane training. Someone had deliberately blurred Stella's image. The photo had mosaics over their eyes, but anyone who knew them would recognize them. The article stated that someone from a great power alliance had come to Japan under a legitimate guise to spy. A traitor had sold national and alliance secrets. Although unnamed, the photo pointed to Drake and Ikki Kurogane. Nagi Arisuan said, Ikki was taken by the alliance's ethics committee yesterday. Shizuku's worried and went home to find a solution. How could they write this? Drake's not a spy. Stella was furious. Spies were deceitful and despicable. Drake wasn't like that. Drake sighed. Of course, and the writer probably knows this. Someone did this deliberately. Why? Drake scoffed. I came to Japan openly to study. What secrets could I give a spy? This is absurd. It clearly has another purpose. Drake pondered. Didn't you notice? The spy is me, but only Ikki was taken. The ethics committee took him. They don't handle traitors. Magic Knights, even unlicensed student knights, had many rights. Many people doubted if they deserved them. The ethics committee reviewed sword masters' conduct, providing guidance or punishment. In other words, they were the military police of Magic Knights. Drake realized the news was aimed at Ikki Kurogane. The ethics committee had a reason to take him. But what could they do? Even without a license, the ethics committee couldn't severely punish him. All Japanese Magic Knights were under the Alliance headquarters. Even Kurogane Itsuki couldn't act without reason. Because of this dubious espionage charge. The headquarters wouldn't act based on this. If they wanted to use this charge, the police, not the ethics committee, would act. Only one explanation. A high-ranking member of the ethics committee planned this. Considering Ikki Kurogane's past, it was likely his father. He didn't want Ikki Kurogane to become a Magic Knight. But was it his father's plan? It was excessive. This wasn't just about questioning Ikki Kurogane, there was another action. They'd manipulate the selection tournament. Thanks to Shizuya Kirihara, Ikki Kurogane's situation was public knowledge, especially his graduation upon winning the 7-star Sword King title. Ruining this would prevent Ikki Kurogane's graduation and remove him from the path of a Magic Knight. But Drake couldn't guess their specific plan. Whatever it was underhanded. Dilemma and opportunity. After leaving Kurogane Shizuku's dorm, Drake and Stella went to see Kurono Shinguji. She knew about the crude and despicable actions, but she couldn't stop the alliance branch. Kurogane Shizuku returned to school. Drake learned Ikki Kurogane's situation from her. He was essentially imprisoned, with no visitors allowed. The ethics committee interrogated him intensely daily. It was like torture, short of physical violence. Kurono Shinguji had protested to the alliance repeatedly, but received no response. She could only prevent Ikki Kurogane from forfeiting and ensure fair treatment during his matches. She arranged for Ikki Kurogane's opponent to compete at the branch, with a teacher acting as a referee. Their homeroom teacher, Yuri Oriki, took on this task. But upon her return, Drake saw her troubled expression. He sensed something was wrong. Teacher Yuri, did Ikki lose? Yuri Oriki seemed preoccupied. She didn't correct Drake for not using the Little Yuri nickname. No, he won. But, Drake said directly, is Ikki in bad shape? Did they do something to him? Yuri Oriki hesitated. Ikki's condition is poor. He's pale, coughing, and seems pained. A cold. He won with a cold. That's impressive, Stella said, recalling her own illness. Drake frowned. Teacher Yuri, I'm Ikki's friend. I'm worried, tell me the truth. Yuri Oriki, having extensive medical knowledge, hesitated even longer, seemingly conflicted. I need to see the principal, we'll talk later. Drake guessed what she meant. His fists clenched, his anger was barely contained. Stella grabbed his hand, he saw her worried expression. He relaxed his fists. Thank you, Stella, I'm calm now. Stella breathed a sigh of relief. What do? We can't help Ikki. Drake thought, there were few solutions. It was clearly a frame-up. Ikki Kurogane's denials were useless. They'd continue their tactics until he broke. Even if released, he might not be able to live normally. Or they might make him a true traitor. Given their methods, this wasn't impossible. The mastermind was the Alliance's Japanese branch, official channels wouldn't work. Violence was also impossible. Ikki Kurogane endured to become a magic knight, he couldn't join rebellion. Drake received a message from Kurono Shinguji, she wanted him to see the principal. A turning point might appear, he and Stella went to see Kurono Shinguji. Kurono Shinguji gave good news. Kid, you're quite favored by your superiors. Drake said, puzzled, Principal, what do you mean? Kurono Shinguji replied, today, Shinryu Temple protested to the Alliance about the espionage accusations against you. They demanded the Japanese branch apologize for the trouble caused. If they refuse, Shinryu Temple will ban all Japanese sword masters from the Fighting God Cup. Drake felt warmth. Nothing was better than family support during hardship. Thanking the elder again, Drake considered the implications. Shinryu Temple's threat would be effective, the Japanese branch would react. If Drake's suspicion was cleared, Ikki Kurogane wouldn't be accused of treason. Kurono Shinguji could release him. But Drake wouldn't wait, he didn't trust the Japanese branch, he needed to rescue Ikki Kurogane quickly. Shinryu Temple's actions had helped and created an opening. Drake's mind raced. Stella, where's Kagami? I need her help. Akaza Mamoru got out of his car. Japan's summer was unpleasant for his size. He was sweating profusely upon leaving the air-conditioned car. Wiping his sweat, he complained about the distance between the parking lot and the building. Thinking of his impending success, leaving the ethics committee for greater power and status, Akaza Mamoru felt better. A boy in a sun hat rushed from the side, bumping into him. The boy bowed, appearing terrified. Akaza Mamoru wanted to scold him, but he was in a good mood and decided to show his magnanimity. He lectured him and let him go. The boy thanked him repeatedly and left. Akaza Mamoru, summoned by Kurogane Gen, forgot the incident. The boy removed his hat, it was Nagi Arisuin. He contacted Drake. It's done, it's on the target. Thanks, Alice. Only you could do this. Drake said sincerely. It's fine, I'm Shizuku's friend, I did it for her. Nagi Arisuin said, I don't know what you're planning, but rescue Ikki. Definitely. Drake's reply was resolute. Counterattack. Drake put down the student council handbook and saw Stella's worried face. Drake, will this work? Drake smiled. The Japanese branch used public opinion to smear Ikki. Times have changed. Those old men think public opinion is controlled by power. It's time they learned it's a double-edged sword. Drake knew this from his past life in the information age. Even a small-time internet troll knew more about manipulating public opinion than these politicians. Drake wasn't at that level, but he knew how to deal with them. Akaza Mamoru tidied himself before the branch head's office, ensuring his appearance was impeccable before knocking. Come in. The voice was cold, devoid of emotion. Akaza Mamoru entered. Kurogane Itsuki wasn't sitting. He stood by the window, looking at the Shibuya street scene. Head of the family, Akaza Mamoru reports. Kurigane Itsuki turned. Akaza, how did it go? Despite the strong air conditioning, Akaza Mamoru was sweating profusely. Head of the family, I apologize. That fool is stubborn, it might take more time. Time. Kurigane Itsuki snorted. Do you have time? He threw a document on the desk. This just arrived from headquarters, read it. Akaza Mamoru read it, he sweated even more. This, how is this possible? Kurigane Itsuki said, do you understand the situation? If this isn't resolved quickly, headquarters will reprimand us, and our sword masters will complain. Akaza Mamoru understood. The situation was difficult. Nango Tarajiro was respected among Japanese sword masters, not just for his age 92. He was the only Japanese to win the Fighting God Cup and the title of Fighting God. His title became Fighting God. Akaza Mamoru couldn't imagine the reaction if Japanese sword masters knew his plan prevented them from participating in the Fighting God Cup. Even if he achieved his ambition, the martial arts sword masters wouldn't let him off. He needed to resolve this for his own sake. Wiping his sweat, Akaza Mamoru said, head of the family, rest assured, that fool is nearing his limit, I'll finish this quickly. Kurigane Itsuki's icy face pressured Akaza Mamoru. He stared for a long time before saying, do it. But Akaza, if you miss this chance, don't blame others. Akaza Mamoru understood. His ambition was exposed. If he didn't handle Iki Kurigane, he'd fail. Bowing repeatedly, Akaza Mamoru left Kurigane Itsuki's office. His fear turned to gloom. He couldn't blame Kurigane Itsuki or Shinryuji Temple. His anger and resentment were directed at Iki Kurigane. Akaza Mamoru entered the elevator, pressing the button for the 10th underground floor. This was where the ethics committee was located, always in the shadows. Director. A man in a red suit bowed. Red suits were the ethics committee's uniforms. Red coats were disliked among Japanese sword masters. Akaza Mamoru nodded. Iki Kurigane. The man said, the vice director is questioning him, but there's no progress. Akaza Mamoru smiled cruelly. Take me there, we need to hurry. An inconspicuous van was parked in the building's parking lot. Inside, Stella worried about Drake, fearing he'd attack the fat man. Drake was about to explode. The sounds from the bug were challenging their patience. Drake crushed his drink can. The drink spilled. He took a deep breath, throwing the can away. I promised the principal I wouldn't act rashly. But I hope they like my gift. This world had both abilities and technology, but sword masters didn't care about technology. Technological weapons were inferior to abilities, only medical technology like regeneration pods was useful. History showed war was the catalyst for technological advancement. This world's technological advancement was a miracle. Yet, this world's technology wasn't behind, it was an information society. Rapid development left some behind, especially in Japan's closed society. Before Kurigane Itsuki and Akaza Mamoru noticed, a news article with audio evidence spread online. It wasn't released through official channels, they couldn't block it in time. Kurigane Itsuki sat in his office, listening to his subordinates report. Even he was furious. He made a call. Akaza. Come to my office. Akaza Mamoru almost dropped his phone upon hearing the call end. He'd heard the news before Iki Kurigane, the recording pinned him as the mastermind. This was Drake's doing, he'd created the news. The first half summarized previous news, Iki Kurigane's arrest and Shinryuji Temple's statement. The second half was the editor's speculation. Drake didn't reveal everything, he presented it as speculation. The Japanese branch wanted the exchange student's Shinryuji Temple martial arts, they used the espionage charge to interrogate him. They didn't dare act openly, they arrested the exchange student's Japanese friend to implicate him. The friend was a strong sword master, he didn't betray his friend. The recording was evidence, it showed the ethics committee using insults, coercion, threats, and violence. The high-level conspiracy and the innocent, strong victim were more compelling than the truth. Public opinion turned against the higher-ups. The Japanese people lived under their control but resented it, they vented their frustration online. They believed the truth. Drake couldn't directly rescue Iki Kurigane. But this also restricted Kurigane Itsuki and Akaza Mamoru. Drake wanted to see how long they could hold Ikki Kurogane under this pressure. Pillar of Strength. Hagen Academy, Magic Knight Alliance Japanese Branch, 10th Underground Floor. Those brought in for questioning by the ethics committee weren't treated well. Ikki Kurogane was in a cramped, dark room, like a coffin. He'd been there for. He'd initially judged time by the changing light through the small window, but as his condition worsened, he lost track of time. Ikki Kurogane was sure his weakness wasn't from a summer cold. His weakness was likely due to the meager food and water, the reaction was from something like truth serum. But it wasn't these tactics that broke him. Ikki Kurogane coughed, a bitter smile on his face. The heaviest blow came from his father, Kurogane Itsuki. Ikki Kurogane could still hear Kurogane Itsuki's cold, heartless words. Ikki Kurogane, despite his strength, was human, he craved his family's recognition. But Kurogane Itsuki shattered his hopes. As a father, Kurogane Itsuki felt no affection for Ikki Kurogane. The lack of even aversion, born from unmet expectations, was the most despairing. As the head of the Kurogane family, controlling all of Japan's sword masters, Kurogane Itsuki's management style was based on hierarchy. Avoid excessive ambition, stick to your duty, this is the path to happiness for most. This was Kurogane Itsuki's belief. Ikki Kurogane's actions challenged it. Not everyone could overcome their incompetence like Ikki. Excessive expectations and unrealistic confidence only caused losses. Ikki Kurogane couldn't understand, he felt despair. He believed, even without Kurogane Itsuki's expression, that there was a bond between them, they'd understand each other someday. But Kurogane Itsuki clearly stated that having feelings for him was foolish. His pillar of strength crumbled, that's why Ikki Kurogane broke. Ikki Kurogane considered giving up, sinking into despair. But in the darkness, he heard a voice. Then were rivals. Even if his father didn't care, someone acknowledged him as a rival. If you lose to anyone but me, I won't forgive you. Before settling the score with you, he couldn't lose. Losing to this conspiracy would shame him before those who acknowledged him. Never forget, you're my acknowledged rival. Ikki Kurogane opened his bloodshot eyes, a smile appeared on his lips. He couldn't give up, someone was waiting for their duel. The door opened, Akaza Mamoru, in a red suit, entered. Congratulations, you passed the ethics committee's questioning, you're free to go. Ikki Kurogane didn't believe Akaza Mamoru would willingly release him, there was another conspiracy behind that cheerful face. Akaza Mamoru said, your goal is the 7-star Sword King title, you're closer. Your final match in the Hagen Academy selection tournament is coming, victory will give you Hagen Academy's representative spot. Ikki Kurogane guessed Akaza Mamoru's cheerful demeanor meant his final opponent was formidable. For your final match, your opponent is the strongest, Hagen Academy's Student Council President, 4th place at last year's 7-star Sword Festival, Reikiri, Tukatudo. What? You're scared. Will you forfeit? This was Akaza Mamoru's final tactic, using Reikiri to destroy Ikki Kurogane's path as a sword master. Ikki Kurogane had seen Tukatudo's strength at Kurogane Shizuku's match. Even at his best, victory against Tukatudo wasn't guaranteed. Now, he was at his limit. But, Ikki Kurogane stood, steadying himself against the wall. I understand. Can I leave now? His tone was calm, showing no nervousness. Akaza Mamoru, surprised by the lack of expected reaction, lost his false demeanor. He said angrily, let's see how you defeat Reikiri and become 7-star Sword King. This is the end, you can't even graduate, yet you want to be a magic knight. Ikki Kurogane ignored him, leaving his prison. No matter the opponent, he wouldn't lose, he'd defeat all opponents until facing his rival. Hagen Academy, Principal's Office. Drake, Stella, and the student council executives were there, they knew about Ikki Kurogane's final match. Kurogane Shizuku slammed her hand on Kurono Shinguji's desk. No, brother's in bad shape, he can't win against the student council president. Kurogane Shizuku had heard the recording, she was angry at Akaza Mamoru and worried about Ikki Kurogane. She knew from his voice how bad his condition was. Having fought Tukatudo, she knew Reikiri's power. Kurogane Shizuku couldn't remain calm. Kurono Shinguji frowned. I apologize, I didn't expect this. Drake sensed Kurono Shinguji's anger. Ikki Kurogane wasn't supposed to face Tukatudo. This was deliberate. She hadn't been thorough enough. There were still high-ranking branch members at Hagen Academy. They'd done this. She couldn't escape responsibility. Iki Kurigane was in a desperate situation because of her oversight. Kurigane Shizuku looked at Tuka Tudo. Student Council President, will you accept this unfair fight? Tuka Tudo lowered her head. Sorry, as Student Council President, I can't refuse a scheduled match. Then, Kurigane Shizuku was about to speak, but Drake interrupted. Shizuku. Don't. The president has reasons to fight. Kurigane Shizuku knew asking Tuka Tudo to lose was unreasonable, but she was frustrated. Seeing Kurigane Shizuku's expression, Drake said, with respect to the president, I believe in Iki. That man won't lose here. The match begins. The Long Hagen Academy Representative Selection Tournament finally reached its final round. 12 undefeated contestants, after more than 10 matches, would compete for the 6 spots in the 7-Star Sword Festival. The most anticipated match was undoubtedly the one between the Worst One and Reikiri. Iki Kurigane was already a prominent figure at Hagen Academy. Since the selection tournament began, he, as an F-rank sword master, had defeated top-ranked sword masters like Hunter. He'd continued winning, effortlessly defeating opponents with higher ability values. As Kurigane Itsuki had worried, many saw Iki Kurigane as an idol. The espionage incident further pushed him into the spotlight. Many were watching his final match. His opponent was the Academy's strongest, Tuka Tudo. Everyone was eager to see if Iki Kurigane could create another miracle. Drake defeated his opponent in 3 seconds, securing his spot. He went to Iki Kurigane's match, waiting for him. This match was highly anticipated. The arena was full. Drake couldn't find a seat. Kurono Shinguji saw Drake and gestured him to the stands below. I thought you'd wait at the entrance with Kurigane Shizuku. Drake shook his head. No need. Shizuku told Iki, I'll wait here. Nene Saikyo fanned herself. You two are close. Nene Saikyo understood the friendship between Drake and Iki Kurigane. It was like hers with Kurono Shinguji. An unpleasant voice interrupted. You're quite relaxed. They looked. They showed their dislike. The voice belonged to someone unwelcome. Akaza Mamoru, in a red suit, his body like a wine barrel, approached, wiping sweat. The weather is hot today. Nene Saikyo said sarcastically. Red Raccoon, what brings you here? Akaza Mamoru ignored her, smiling. Don't be so aggressive. It's not me, it's this master. I met him, he asked me to guide him. Ah. Master, this way. They saw an elderly man behind Akaza Mamoru. Akaza Mamoru's respect was understandable. The short old man in a hakama was a prominent figure. Finally found you. This academy is huge. I'm lost. The old man seemed like a lost old man, but no one would mistake him for an ordinary person. Hey, old geezer. Nene Saikyo reacted strongly. She knew him well. Her master, Japan's oldest sword master, the 92-year-old fighting god, Nango Tarajiro. Ho ho ho. My favorite disciple still has a sharp tongue. That's what makes you cute. Nene Saikyo was called, walking public indecency, by Kurono Shinguji, but she was like a shy girl. See you, cute, disgusting. Stop being mushy. Nango Tarajiro turned to Kurono Shinguji. Kurono, long time no see, last time, you were pregnant. How was the delivery? Kurono Shinguji smiled. Thanks to you. Nango Tarajiro looked at Drake. You're the kid from Shinryu Temple. Drake nodded. Yes, thank you for your care. Nango Tarajiro waved his hand. I received much care from the elder, this is just repayment. Is the elder well? Drake replied, he's healthy, his voice is strong when scolding people. Nango Tarajiro laughed. I've been scolded by him, I understand your hardships. Nango Tarajiro was called master for a reason, his age represented decades of experience and wisdom. He quickly bonded with Drake. Kurono Shinguji asked, why are you here, Master Nango? Nango Tarajiro said, to see Toka's match. I could watch at the 7-Star Sword Festival, but her opponent is, Kurigane, I have to see this. Tuka Tudo, like Nene Saikyo, was Nango Tarajiro's disciple. Her Reikiri combined Nango Tarajiro's, Otogiri, swordsmanship with her ability. Nango Tarajiro and the Kurigane family had a deep connection. Decades ago, Nango Tarajiro and Kurigane Ryuma, later called the great hero, rose to prominence among Japanese sword masters. They competed, fought together, and gained fame. They were comrades and rivals. Knowing his disciple would duel his rival's descendant, Nango Tarajiro had to see the result. But, Master Nango, today's match might be interrupted. Akaza Mamoru interrupted, changing everyone's expression. What? Kurono Shinguji raised an eyebrow. Akaza Mamoru's malice felt ominous. The arena's announcer spoke. Ikki Kurogane and Tuka Tudu's match is starting. But Ikki Kurogane hasn't arrived at the preparation room. If he doesn't arrive within 10 minutes, he'll forfeit. Didn't Director Akaza say he'd come with Ikki and refused our greeting? Kurono Shinguji's anger was barely contained. Akaza Mamoru grinned. Oops. I forgot. Sorry. The branch isn't far, he can take the train. With malice, he added, unless he's too ill to make it. I was careless. Kurono Shinguji regretted trusting Akaza Mamoru. She hadn't expected Akaza Mamoru to be so despicable. Ikki Kurogane was already ill, he used this underhanded tactic. Kurono Shinguji raised her fist, about to attack. Nene Saikyo stopped her. Kurono, don't rush. Ikki accepted the duel, we watch it end. We'll deal with him later. Nene Saikyo's tone was murderous, but she calmed Kurono Shinguji. Drake admired Akaza Mamoru. He could smile with two former world third rankers glaring at him. Drake felt their killing intent. They wouldn't let him off, regardless of the result. Nango Tarajiro looked at Drake. You don't seem worried, aren't you friends with the Kurogane kid? Drake smiled. I believe he won't be defeated, he'll arrive and win. Drake's expectation wasn't wrong. Minutes later, the announcer declared Ikki Kurogane's arrival. The match was about to begin. Surprise. The arena's red gate opened, and Tuka Tudo, her inherent device, Narukami, already materialized, walked out step by step. The announcer began introducing the student council president, but instead of listening, Drake focused on Tuka Tudo's state. Tuka Tudo had previously asked Kurogane Shizuku to persuade Ikki Kurogane to forfeit. She couldn't refuse the scheduled match, but she didn't want to face a sick Ikki Kurogane in the arena. She didn't want to kill Ikki Kurogane. The maternal student council president hadn't become the strongest at Hagen Academy through kindness, nor had she achieved 4th place in the 7-Star Sword Festival through gentleness. Violence was the essence of sword masters. Tuka Tudo's other side was cruel and ferocious. Tuka Tudo usually hid this side, unless she was serious. Drake sensed her seriousness. She wouldn't hold back, she might kill Ikki Kurogane. Facing this Tuka Tudo, the blue gate opened, and Ikki Kurogane emerged. His steps were steady, but as he entered the arena, everyone sensed something unusual. His appearance and expression were normal, yet a terrifying aura emanated from him, unsettling the arena. This was Ikki Kurogane's response to a potentially fatal match, Resolve. Nango Tarajiro said, so this is Toka's opponent, an impressive kid. Drake agreed. Ikki's prepared to die, that resolve consumed the audience. Nango Tarajiro exclaimed, I didn't expect the Kurogane family to have such a man. This match will be exciting. Kurono Shinguji worried. But Ikki's stamina is depleted, he can only use 1 or 2 strikes. Resolve isn't enough. Everyone knew the key to defeating Tuka Tudo was countering her, Reikiri. Yes, the undefeated Reikiri could be countered. Not by using weapon range like Hoshizora Udai in the previous 7-Star Sword Festival, nor by brute force, which Ikki Kurogane couldn't do. Ikki Kurogane had planned his counter to Tuka Tudo. Reikiri was essentially a sword drawing technique. The most dangerous moment was before the sword was drawn. After that, Reikiri couldn't be used. In a prolonged battle, he'd probe, inducing Tuka Tudo to use Reikiri or other ultimate techniques. That brief opportunity was the only chance to win. Everyone in the stands understood this. They lacked confidence in Ikki Kurogane, he lacked the stamina. Let's go ahead. The arena's buzzer sounded, the match began. Ikki Kurogane didn't prolong the fight, his body glowed with magic. It was Ito Shura, his ultimate technique, usable once a day. This was why people thought he could fight Tuka Tudo. But he revealed his trump card at the start. Ito Shura lasted only a minute, Ikki Kurogane had no retreat. Drake sensed Ikki Kurogane wasn't using tactics, his resolve was real. No one had defeated Tuka Tudo at close range, her blade's reach was her domain. Ikki Kurogane would break through it directly. 7th Secret Sword, Lightning Flash. Ikki Kurogane used his fastest strike, invisible to the naked eye, like lightning. This was his first and last strike, he'd end this without regret. But his opponent was Tuka Tudo, whose title was, Reikiri, Lightning Cutter. Tuka Tudo knew Ikki Kurogane was at his limit, dodging would exhaust him. But she sensed his resolve, she couldn't back down. He'd invaded her domain, it was a challenge, she'd respond with her strongest attack. Legs apart, Tuka Tudo channeled lightning into her scabbard, preparing Reikiri. Reikiri. They clashed, risking everything. The audience saw the result instantly. Both were incredibly fast. Ikki Kurogane's 7th secret sword was slightly slower than Reikiri. Tuka Tudo would cut him down. Ikki Kurogane sensed this, but he didn't think he'd lose. Ito Shiro released all his power in a minute, but he only needed a second. Hearing, sight, touch, taste, smell, all unnecessary. Even breathing and heartbeat weren't necessary. He channeled all his strength and magic into that second. This was Ikki Kurogane's limit-breaking power, Ito Resetsu. Compressing a minute's power into a second, all his power was in this strike. Last secret technique, Heaven-clad Null Shroud. Drake stood up, amazed. Ikki Kurogane's strike cut through Tuka Tudo's plasma blade and severed her Narukami. Inherent devices, manifestations of the soul, were considered indestructible. Ikki Kurogane's in iron, for example, could withstand tons of pressure without deformation. It was unimaginable how Ikki Kurogane could cut Tuka Tudo's Narukami. With her device destroyed, Tuka Tudo lost consciousness and fell. Drake, leaning on the railing, watched Ikki Kurogane excitedly. He hadn't expected this surprise. Ito Resetsu was impressive, but Drake was moved by the technique's unique aspect. Drake sensed a change in Ikki Kurogane's ki flow during his final strike. He released his magic, unleashing an incredibly sharp attack. That's how he cut Tuka Tudo's device. It felt dangerous. Drake had taught Ikki Kurogane about ki. He developed a combat technique using ki. Drake had taught Shinryu Temple's members about ki, but none had developed such a technique. Shinryu Temple's monks lacked the time. Ikki Kurogane, limited by his abilities, seized every chance to become stronger. Only he could develop such a technique. Was that for me? Drake whispered, smiling. You didn't disappoint me. Unknown to Drake, a similar ability appeared in the Black Clover anime he hadn't seen. The Zetsu-ten technique of the sorcerers from Yami's homeland, the Sun Country. Training an unexpected event. The selection tournament ended. Hagen Academy decided on its representatives for the 7-Star Sword Festival. Surprisingly, popular choices like Tuka Tudo and Renren Tomaru weren't selected. The representatives were Drake, Stella, Ikki Kurogane, Nagi Arisuin, and Kanata Tutokubara, the sole surviving student council member. The last member was a girl named Kikyo Hager. She and her twin sister, Botan Hager, had good luck in the selection tournament, facing weak opponents until the final round. Botan Hager's luck ran out. She faced Drake and lost in 3 seconds. After the tournament, Hagen Academy held the appointment ceremony. Tuka Tudo handed the Hagen Academy flag to Ikki Kurogane before all the students. The ceremony was a week later because Ikki Kurogane was already seriously ill from his fight with Tuka Tudo and had used Ichi no Resetsu. Even with regeneration pods, it took a week for him to fully recover. Akaza Mamoru disappeared. After the match, he tried to attack the injured Ikki Kurogane. Kurono Shinguji's ultimate technique sent him away. She probably wouldn't see him again. The appointment ceremony ended in late July, during summer vacation. But the selected representatives couldn't relax. The 7-Star Sword Festival was in mid-August. Before large tournaments, contestants underwent intensive training. Sometimes, instructors were official, Coke, Alliance Magic Knights. It was a good opportunity to improve. Hagen Academy usually held training camps in Okutama. But due to the puppet incident, Kurono Shinguji asked Guilloman Academy to join them this year. Hagen Academy sent 6 contestants. Student council members would be coordinators and sparring partners. Kurogane Shizuku, a water mage, would provide medical support. The instructor was Nango Tarajiro. Everyone was surprised and delighted. Nango Tarajiro could easily instruct the student knights, but Drake took Stella to the deeper mountains. Iki Kurogane and Tudu's battle had impacted many, including Stella. Stella understood that they were stronger than her. She had no chance of winning against them. Ordinary training wouldn't help. To become stronger quickly, she needed to awaken her true power. Drake and Stella began special training. Stella hadn't awakened her power because she hadn't understood its nature. Her power was too strong. To protect herself, she'd subconsciously sealed it. Drake learned about Stella's past. When her power awakened, she was severely burned and deemed unfit to be a sword master. She didn't give up. Through rigorous training, she controlled her power, becoming the Crimson Princess. But her true power was sealed. Even though she could handle it, the subconscious seal wasn't easy to break. There was only one way: intense pressure, even a life or death crisis, to break the seal using survival instincts. Fal, over 10 meters tall, unleashed its fiery breath at Stella. The ground crystallized from the heat, the power of Salamander, the fire elemental spirit. Stella dodged Fal's breath, leaping towards Fal. Fal's tail swept her away. She crashed into a mountain wall, shattering the small mountain. Drake didn't intervene, he'd sent Fal. Drake asked Stella why she wanted to become stronger. Initially, she said she didn't want to disappoint her people. Later, she gave another answer. She wanted to stand proudly beside her lover, not as someone to be protected, but as his strength, an indispensable presence. Stella's resolve was unwavering. Drake couldn't refuse her wish. He wouldn't stop Fal until she did. But would she give up easily? Drake didn't think so. 10 days passed. Stella trained until exhaustion. Drake carried her back to the dorm daily. The other contestants knew nothing about their training. Kagami and reporters from other academies tried to gather information, but failed. According to Kagami, the valley was like hell during their training. After their training, they saw devastation, as if ravaged by a natural disaster. Their training continued beyond the 10-day camp. Stella's power awakened, but she couldn't control it. Her training would continue, they'd stay longer. Kurono Shinguji supported this. It was just a barren mountain. They planned to continue, but an unexpected event disrupted their plan. On the day Iki Kurogane and the others returned to Hagen Academy, Drake sensed someone's key in the warehouse storing the lime for marking the training grounds, even though everyone had boarded the bus. Forcibly breaking the lock, Drake found Kagami tied up. After removing the gag, she said, "Drake, return to Hagen Academy, Alice has a problem. They're going to attack the academy." Drake's pupils constricted. He'd suspected Nagi Arisuin. She hadn't shown malice, but something went wrong. Details later. "I'll go back. Stella, take care of Kagami." Drake left the warehouse, flames forming wings as he soared into the sky. "Alice, don't do anything foolish," Drake said, flying through the clouds. Akatsuki Academy. Drake's flight speed was incredible. He accelerated beyond the speed of sound, creating sonic booms. He quickly reached Hagen Academy. Black smoke was rising from it. He saw the situation at the school gate. Iki Kurogane and the others returned from Kyomen Academy's training camp. They saw the black smoke. After parking, they saw the attackers. 6 were contestants from the other 6 7-star academies participating in the 7-star Sword Festival. They claimed to be students from Akatsuki Academy. Their goal was to get Akatsuki Academy into the 7-star Sword Festival. Hagen Academy was a strong school recognized by the International Magic Knight Alliance. Being attacked by students from other schools was more than a loss of face. The alliance monopolized sword master education in Japan. The annual 7-star Sword Festival showcased their educational achievements, preventing public questioning of their policies. But if another institution trained stronger sword masters, it would be problematic. The alliance couldn't back down from Akatsuki Academy's challenge. They'd allow Akatsuki Academy to participate. Akatsuki Academy, confident in challenging the alliance's decades-long system, had the strength to do so. Hidden in the shadows, Akatsuki Academy's members were all underground world elites, hired from Rebellion by an organization to target the alliance. Iki Kurogane and the others, facing 7 people, and a black lion, sensed their power and killing intent. With a boom, a figure enveloped in flames fell between them, like a meteorite. The flames and dust cleared, revealing Drake. He looked at the 7 from Akatsuki Academy, then at Nagi Arisuin. "Alice," explained Kagami. Nagi Arisuan chuckled. His plan was ruined. No one expected Drake's dramatic entrance. Ikki Kurogane stood before Nagi Arisuan. He's our comrade. Drake seemed to understand, turning. Those were decoys to test Alice. Nagi Arisuan was surprised. He'd confessed on the bus and proposed attacking Akatsuki Academy. But they were decoys, he hadn't revealed anything, how was he exposed? It must be a sword master ability he didn't know. Alice, watch out. Ikki Kurogane, who could also sense ki, warned. Nagi Arisuan, understanding, used his ability, sinking into his shadow. Silver daggers struck the ground. If Nagi Arisuan hadn't dodged, he would have been pierced. Nagi Arisuan emerged from the shadow, seeing a figure behind them. It was a short boy with an innocent smile, holding a silver dagger. Shiranui Amane. It's you. Nagi Arisuan understood how his betrayal was exposed. This seemingly weak boy could read minds. Too bad, I missed a good opportunity. But you're sharp, you noticed my ability so quickly. He looked at Ikki Kurogane, smiling. Kurogane Senpai, it's great to see you again. Ikki Kurogane frowned. They'd met during training. Ikki Kurogane had encountered a random killer. Shiranui Amane had prevented it in an inexplicable way. Shiranui Amane claimed to be Ikki Kurogane's fan. He was enthusiastic. But Ikki Kurogane sensed malice. Ikki Kurogane didn't believe him. Drake reached out. The air wrinkled. A person in thick clothing appeared. Drake grabbed her chainsaw-like device. Unturning Tatara Yui, your killing intent is too strong for a sneak attack. Even with her face hidden, Tatara Yui was surprised. From an assassin family, with her companion's ability to conceal their presence, she hadn't expected her attack to be discovered. Drake's grip was too strong. Unable to retrieve her device, Tatara Yui retreated. I told you, that Shinryu Temple student isn't easy to deal with. More figures emerged from a transparent mist. The seven who'd faced them fell. The sound of wood colliding revealed they were puppets. Drake said, those were wooden puppets. A puppeteer controlled them. Someone else used illusion magic. Haraga Raisen, dressed as a clown, applauded. Good eye. Shirara Barari's art and I did that. Drake looked at Shirara Barari, covered in paint, then at Haraga Raisen. That magic, you're the one who attacked us in Okutama with puppets. Haraga Raisen was surprised. People used abilities, not magic, to identify each other. He hadn't expected to be exposed. A flash of fire, Haraga Raisen was enveloped by a fiery hand. Boom. Drake slammed Haraga Raisen to the ground. Haraga Raisen was crushed, his mask shattered. Sneaky fool. Another puppet. But I'll find you. Akatsuki Academy lost a member instantly. They understood why Drake was the biggest variable in their plan. Confronting Akatsuki Academy. Drake didn't care why Akatsuki Academy attacked Hagen Academy, he only knew they were the clown's companions. He'd fight and defeat them. Akatsuki Academy's members sensed his fighting spirit, they knew what he was thinking. Their plan was to completely crush Hagen Academy, retreat was impossible. As elites from rebellion, they wouldn't flee. After Drake's attack on Raisen Haraga, the others attacked. A huge black lion pounced, its massive paw swiping down. Two people sat on the lion's back. The pink-haired girl with an eye patch said, my servant, the Sphinx, isn't an ordinary beast. I used bloodline power, evil god binding, to inscribe evil into its soul and blood, maximizing its dark power. Mere human flesh can't withstand it. Her maid said, Miss said, my collar of subordination turns creatures into my inherent device. Lions are stronger than humans, with magic, it's very strong. The girl in a dress and eye patch, Kazumatsuri Rina, was undoubtedly a Chunobu. Her dramatic lines, and her maid's almost sarcastic translations, added a comedic touch to the tense battle. But her ability was powerful. Magic was considered fate's power, determined at birth. Kazumatsuri Rina could grant magic to creatures without innate magic. The Sphinx alone was at least a B-rank sword master, the title Beast Master was well deserved. Impressive power. Drake's voice came from beneath the Sphinx's paw. The huge black lion tilted its head, showing a human-like expression of confusion. Kazumatsuri Rina was surprised. The lion's paw slowly moved. Kazumatsuri Rina saw Drake. He stood there, using one hand to block the Sphinx's paw. The evil dragon and Dragonslayer were on his hands. Drake inhaled deeply. Ha! With a shout, the Sphinx, with the two girls, was thrown away like it had been hit by a hammer. The onlookers were shocked. They didn't understand what happened. Tuka Tudo looked at Iki Kuragane. Iki Kuragane smiled. Drake mastered that move quickly. Tuka Tudo recognized it, Iki Kuragane's technique to sever her device. The principle was the same, manipulating ki to release magic instantly, causing massive damage. Drake had taught Iki Kuragane about ki. Mastering this wasn't difficult for him. Frost spread from the ground, freezing Drake's feet. The icy laughter Tsuruya Mio, the only person Drake had met from Akatsuki Academy. She was a Kyomen Academy contestant in the 7-Star Sword Festival. They'd met during training. Her ability was cold air manipulation. She could freeze opponents at -273 degrees Celsius, absolute zero. Ice and fire countered each other. It depended on magic power. Tsuruya Mio didn't plan to use absolute zero to defeat Drake. She was creating an opportunity for someone else. Tatara Yui's sweeping centipede device roared as she swung it at Drake's neck. Tatara Yui's attack power was A rank, relying on her device. Unlike ordinary swords, ground-sweeping centipede could tear through steel with a light swing. Flames erupted, the frost vanished. Drake raised his arm, meeting the chainsaw. Sparks flew, ground-crawling centipede was deflected. Their strength difference was too great. Tatara Yui was open, Drake punched her. Fire Dragon's iron fist. But the force rebounded, Drake stumbled back. So that's why your title is unturning. Tatara Yui's ability was concept interference, rebounding attacks. Unlike the smiling assassin Drake had defeated before, rebounding and absorbing had advantages and disadvantages, rebounding was simpler and had fewer flaws. Tatara Yui was far stronger, her reflexes were fast, Drake couldn't use the same method. Kazumatsuri Rina seized the opportunity, the Sphinx charged at Drake. Beast King charge. The Sphinx charged, its size and speed were immense. Drake said boredly, "It's lifeless, who are you trying to fool?" Discovered. Why? The blonde girl in an apron mumbled. Her decoys had been discovered, she didn't understand what was wrong with her flawless artwork. Sarah Bloodlily, whose title was Bloody Da Vinci, was troubled, painting was her only pursuit. The charging Sphinx was a decoy she'd painted, its power was the same as a real one. But it couldn't defeat Drake. Drake leapt, his legs striking down like an axe, destroying the fake lion. Drake saw Kazumatsuri Rina. Show your power, Sphinx. The Sphinx roared at Drake. My evil god binding unleashes dark power. Its fin. No, Sphinx's dark power, Beast King intimidation. The Beast King's ability, eye contact shakes the soul. Charlotte, the maid, explained. Miss said, since it's my device, it can use magic and ultimate techniques. Cool, right? Charlotte, the description was unnecessary. My apologies, miss. While they bickered, Drake landed, the Sphinx charged. Drake looked up, his eyes turning vertical. Scram. The Sphinx stopped, almost throwing Kazumatsuri Rina and Charlotte off. As a beast, the Sphinx sensed danger better than humans. It sensed a more terrifying predator, continuing would mean death. It disobeyed its master, fleeing at high speed. Sphinx, what are you doing? Stop. Kazumatsuri Rina's voice faded. Drake stood, looking at the remaining members. I've gathered enough information, let's finish this. Regarding the motion sickness of dragon slayers. Many comment on this, the original setting is confusing. It's said that dragon power damages the semicircular canals, preventing balance, but it's more subjective. They don't get motion sickness if they don't think it's a vehicle, like Natsu and Happy. The protagonist can fly, so he won't be easily countered. Crushing defeat. Iki Kuragane, though not directly involved in the fight, remained vigilant towards the two members of Akatsuki Academy who hadn't joined the fray. One was Kuragane Oma. Iki Kuragane knew his older brother wanted a one-on-one duel with Drake, hence his absence from the melee. Iki Kuragane understood his power-hungry brother, he wouldn't resort to a sneak attack. Iki Kuragane was more wary of Shiranui Amane. This dangerous individual, with a dangerous personality, kept Iki Kuragane on edge. Shiranui Amane sensed Iki Kuragane's vigilance. Kuragane senpai, don't look at me like that. I won't do anything. Ki could detect lies, but Shiranui Amane's ki was chaotic malice, it was difficult to read. Ikki Kurogane sensed a problem in Shiranui Amane's words. Again. Have you already done something? Ikki Kurogane gripped in iron, his expression grim. Who knows? Shiranui Amane gave an inscrutable expression. Shiranui Amane had indeed acted against Drake without anyone noticing, but it had been ineffective. Shiranui Amane's ability wasn't predicting the future, it was Goddess's excess grace. It was simple, boosting one of Shiranui Amane's stats to an exceptional level. Shiranui Amane's luck stat was S rank. The Alliance's highest sword master ability rating was A, S rank didn't exist. Even Stella's exceptionally high magic power was only A rank. S rank luck meant Shiranui Amane's luck surpassed comprehension. With an S rank luck stat, if Shiranui Amane made a wish, fate would fulfill it somehow. He was favored by the goddess of fate. Shiranui Amane wished for Drake's defeat, his opponents would be unable to participate due to various reasons. Kagami Kusakabe's investigation of Akatsuki Academy began because she sensed Shiranui Amane's anomaly. Shiranui Amane had wished for Drake's defeat, others would have been defeated due to stepping on something, magic malfunction, or other accidents. But fate didn't affect Drake's victory, he held the causal thread of victory. As Drake had said, the previous battles were for gathering information. Except for Kurogane Oma, everyone was dealt with, it was time to finish them. First, Drake assumed a runner's stance, then sped towards Tatara Yui. Four-symbol fist, Suzaku's Heaven's Drive. Tatara Yui's dynamic vision was amazing, she caught Drake's movement, but her body couldn't react in time. She couldn't defend against Drake's punch, but she had her ability, she'd rebound the attack. Drake punched. Tatara Yui was sent flying, she couldn't continue fighting. Impressive. Kurogane Oma, who'd been observing, exclaimed, he understood why Drake defeated Tatara Yui. Drake's attack power rebounded, but Drake used stronger force to overcome the rebound, directly hitting Tatara Yui. One down. Drake turned, walking towards Makoto Tsuruya. Don't come closer. Makoto Tsuruya, an 8th-place finisher in the previous 7-Star Sword Festival, lacked confidence, she'd teamed up with suspicious people like Hiraga Reason. She felt danger, she panicked. Drake quickened his pace, she activated her ability. Makoto Tsuruya was strong, her device was a monocle, it could instantly lower the temperature of a focused area to absolute zero. Humans couldn't survive absolute zero, their bone marrow would freeze, their hearts would stop. This was Makoto Tsuruya's ultimate technique, Satin Ice. Because it was activated through sight, its speed, range, and power were top-notch. But her opponent was Drake, in Dragon Force. Steam erupted from Drake's body, massive heat negating absolute zero. Drake's footsteps were like a death knell to Makoto Tsuruya, she couldn't stop him. Drake reached her, her device flickered, she continued using Satin Ice, but it had no effect. Drake struck her neck with a hand strike, she fell unconscious. 2 down. Drake looked at Sarah, she was painting on her device. While Drake defeated Makoto Tsuruya, she'd been working, she wasn't just creating art. Drake didn't interrupt. Sarah Bloodlily's ability is color manipulation, her ultimate technique is color magic, but that's not your true ability. Sarah looked up. Correct. Witness my true power. Illusion satire. Sarah's brush swept across the canvas, figures in kimonos appeared before Drake. Sarah could turn illusions into reality. Like the Sphinx, the illusions could use abilities and ultimate techniques. She'd drawn 6 Kurogane Omas, each with the same power. Severing Moon Heavenly Dragon Claw. Times 6. 6 Kurogane Omas used their ultimate technique, intersecting slashes extended towards Drake. This was Kurogane Oma's power, perfectly replicated by Sarara. Boring. Drake said, he wouldn't waste time on soulless illusions. Sarah's ability was like a puppeteer's, he only needed to defeat the source. Such ability users were usually weak. 4-symbol fist, Siryu's flowing water. Like Suzaku's Heaven's Drive, but unlike Suzaku's forward momentum, Siryu was for evasion. Drake moved slowly, at a normal walking pace. But he moved through the gaps in the 6 Severing Moon Heavenly Dragon Claws. His movements were like an illusion, no matter how his opponent tried to catch him, he flowed through like water, a technique honed to its limit. Water flows through obstacles, reaching the ocean. Understanding this created Siryu's form. Soulless paintings are useless in our battle. Drake advised, punching the girl in the abdomen. She was weaker than expected, she fell unconscious after one punch. Her canvas showed a half-finished figure, it was mostly white. Drake breathed a sigh of relief, he'd defeated her quickly. If she'd finished, there might have been trouble. Drake looked at Kurogane Oma. I'm warmed up, your turn. Kurogane Oma. Kurogane Oma, title Sword Emperor of Wind, had the wind manipulation elemental ability. Drake knew something about him, he was the third A-rank sword master in the 7-star sword festival, after Drake and Stella. Drake knew Kurogane Oma was Akatsuki Academy's strongest, he could sense it through ki. Tatara Yui's rebound, Makoto Tsuruya's death god's evil eye, were strong abilities. Kazumatsuri Rina's collar of subordination and Sarah Bloodlily's brush of demiurge were almost cheating. But compared to Kurogane Oma, their abilities were flashy. Kurogane Oma's strength was genuine, his steel-like body and sharp ki declared his power. Drake had encountered many enemies, he understood that those who relied on techniques and abilities would falter in unexpected situations. Drake understood Kurogane Oma's strength was flawless. Drake was similar. He learned various abilities, but he never stopped honing his body and magic. Kurogane Oma ignited Drake's fighting spirit. Kurogane Oma held his device, Dragon Claw, a nodashi longer than a normal katana. Finally, we meet. A smile appeared on Kurogane Oma's cold face. Drake moved his fingers. Do we know each other? Kurogane Oma shook his head. This is our first meeting, but I've anticipated this day. I initially joined this operation because of the Crimson Princess, but then you appeared. Oh. Drake's expression turned dangerous, he waited for Kurogane Oma's explanation. Kurogane Oma said, a sword master's magic represents their destiny. I pursue overwhelming power beyond my reach, the gap created by destiny. The Crimson Princess, with the strongest magic power, is the only one who could make me feel helplessness and despair again, only by facing that fear can I overcome it. But the Crimson Princess is too naive, I'm struggling to train her. Luckily, you appeared, your magic power surpasses hers, you're a better opponent. Drake said, am I a whetstone? Be careful, I might break your blade. They clashed. Kurogane Oma's strength surpassed Tatara Yui's, Dragon Claw, with a sharp wind, attacked. Drake countered with punches, his gauntleted fists and the blade clashed, creating deafening sounds. It was unimaginable how much force they used. Kurogane Oma's strength and swordsmanship were high, he could keep up with Drake's attacks. Drake parried Kurogane Oma's thrust, but he quickly shifted to a horizontal slash. The blade scraped against Drake's armor, creating sparks. Drake pressed down, embedding Dragon Claw in the ground. He kicked Kurogane Oma in the chest. Kurogane Oma, holding his device, flew back, crashing through numerous trees before stopping. Drake admired Kurogane Oma. During their clashes, Drake had used Cicada's Cry several times. Even Ikki Kurogane would need time to recover, Kurogane Oma endured with his strong body and willpower. Drake felt like he'd kicked steel, not flesh. But even steel could be broken, Kurogane Oma, walking again, was unscathed. Your body. Drake frowned, he sensed something. Kurogane Oma grabbed his kimono, with a rip, he tore it open, revealing his upper body. Not just Drake, everyone was shocked. With advanced regeneration technology, wounds healed without scars. But Kurogane Oma's body was covered in scars, bullet wounds, cuts, even animal bites. It was unimaginable what he'd endured. Drake noticed other anomalies. The air around you is unusual, you used that to block my attacks, right? Drake's tone was certain. Kurogane Oma nodded. Correct. This is my ultimate technique, Kusanagi. I applied about 500 kilograms of air pressure to my body. Enduring pressure and pain, I evolved. My bones, organs, and muscles are as strong as steel. To show respect for this death match, I'll remove this. A powerful shockwave emanated from his body, the remains of the broken trees were blown away. Kurogane Oma, free from Kusanagi, moved at several times his previous speed, slashing at Drake, forcing him to bend his knees. Highest of sturdiness, fire thunder. Unlike Ikki Kurogane, Kurogane Oma received traditional Kurogane family training, his swordsmanship was Kyokujitsu Isshin Ryu, passed down since the samurai era. Kurogane Oma struck Dragon Claw's spine, instantly increasing its power. Drake was forced back. Kurogane Oma pursued, unleashing several vacuum blades. Vacuum blades were basic for wind-type sword masters. Magic created sharp blades, fast and sharp. But Kurogane Oma's vacuum blades were larger and sharper. Drake stopped, his arms moving like boneless whips, shattering the vacuum blades. But several cuts appeared on Drake's clothes. Drake saw the damage. Kurogane Oma's attack included another one. It lacked magical fluctuations, it was purely from the force of Kurogane Oma's swing. The power was inhuman. Kurogane Oma was surprised, his slashes hit Drake, but caused no wounds. Drake hadn't used any defensive techniques like Heavenly Dragon armor. My attacks can't pierce even ordinary magic defenses. I found the right person. Drake smiled, he'd limited Dragon Force's power to prolong the fight. But this power wouldn't quickly defeat Kurogane Oma. Drake released his Dragon Force's limit. Good, I'm fired up. Kurogane Oma stared at Drake. Drake vanished. Blade Steel. Kurogane Oma recognized the technique. Blade Steel was easy for someone like Drake to learn. Kurogane Oma reacted quickly. He tried to find Drake, but Drake appeared before him. Drake hadn't used Blade Steel, he'd simply moved too fast to be seen. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. Drake's fiery fist struck Kurogane Oma's chest. Even his steel-like body was burned, his ribs were broken. Kurogane Oma flew back. Drake's hands blazed. He threw a combined flame attack. Fire Dragon's Blazing Flame. Kurogane Oma landed, planting Dragon Claw. Wind Barrier. A whirlwind rose, blocking the flames. But Drake's flames weren't easily blocked. Even with the wind, the heat curled Kurogane Oma's hair. Before Kurogane Oma recovered, a figure pierced the flames. Two different gauntlets tore through the wind god barrier. Kurogane Oma raised Dragon Claw, blocking the punch. A metallic clang echoed. Kurogane Oma felt like he was being hit by a giant demolition hammer. Gritting his teeth, Kurogane Oma focused his remaining strength, blocking Drake's punch. Seizing the opportunity, Kurogane Oma raised Dragon Claw high. Sword techniques usually have limited range to avoid openings. But Kurogane Oma's movement was different, it dislocated his bones and joints. Kyokujitsu Ishin Ryu, Ultimate Speed. This strike contained all Kurogane Oma's power, even the recoil from his bones and joints was used. The blade flashed, cutting Drake's clothes, creating a wound on his chest. But Drake didn't retreat, he kicked Kurogane Oma with a fire dragon's hook claw. Kurogane Oma's arm broke, but he stood. Steam rose from Drake's chest, the wound healed instantly. Kurogane Oma felt like that day again, being crushed by overwhelming violence, the opponent looking down from a throne. Fear of death tore at his heart, but Kurogane Oma smiled. Next strike, we decide the winner. Drake said. Kurogane Oma nodded, raising his device. Heavenly Dragon Severing Moon Claw. Fire Dragon's Roar. Kurogane Oma unleashed a powerful wind blade, like a dragon's claw. But this powerful attack was countered by a dragon's breath. The fiery pillar shattered Kurogane Oma's ultimate technique, hitting him. The flames cleared, revealing Kurogane Oma, still standing. This stubborn man wouldn't fall, even unconscious. The world's strongest, arrives. Ikki Kurogane, though not fighting, remained vigilant towards Shiranui Amane and Kurogane Oma. Drake sensed Ikki Kurogane's worry about his brother. Don't worry, he's alive. President, please take them for treatment, then ask about their motives. Tuka Tudo nodded. Drake had handled the fighting, she needed to do something to maintain her composure as student council president. Tuka Tudo, witnessing Akatsuki Academy's power, especially Kurogane Oma's, knew she wasn't his match. Without Drake, things could have gone badly. She didn't want to trouble Drake further. Drake turned to Shiranui Amane, who was standing quietly. I thought you'd run away. Do you think I'll go easy on you? Or are you confident you can defeat me? Shiranui Amane wasn't nervous, he smiled. Impossible, Oma was defeated, I can't do that. But I'll escape safely today, I wish for it. Drake was amused, besides chaotic malice, he sensed no danger from Shiranui Amane. He didn't understand his confidence, Drake wouldn't be lenient. As Drake was about to reprimand him, his body froze. His pupils narrowed. President, take everyone and leave. Tuka Tudo was about to ask, but saw Drake's serious expression. She had everyone take the injured away. After persuading Kurogane Shizuku to leave, Ikki Kurogane stayed. He joined Drake, ignoring Shiranui Amane. You felt it too? Drake asked. Ikki Kurogane nodded. Yes. That ki is terrifying, like a sword at the throat. Only one person could have such ki. Drake nodded in agreement. He knew this person was in Japan, that's why he came, but he hadn't expected this. 15 years ago, the Baltic crisis occurred. Russia, a core member of the Great Power Alliance, attacked Estonia, which hadn't joined the International Magic Knight Alliance. The alliance, to counter the alliance, sent troops without Estonia's permission. Both sides deployed 300,000 troops, nearly sparking a world war. The crisis was resolved due to internal disagreements, but mainly because of one person. A girl, in white, radiated light in the darkness. She wielded twin-winged swords, like a Valkyrie. She ravaged the battlefield, single-handedly annihilating both armies. The girl's name was Edelweiss. The legend of Hyoku began. After this, both the alliance and the opposing alliance issued international arrest warrants. But the girl was too strong, her power rendered the warrants meaningless. Like in the One Piece world, the high bounty became proof of strength. A significant event occurred 10 years later. Estonia joined the World Magic Knight Alliance. When a reporter asked Estonia's leader about Edelweiss, the president declared, "Our country relinquishes all claims to the land where Hyoku is hiding. Therefore, Hyoku has no connection to our country." A country relinquished land to avoid one person, ignoring public opinion and national image. They were helpless. Hyoku, Edelweiss, showed what it meant to be a one-person army. Edelweiss's ability wasn't combat-related, her power stemmed from her swordsmanship. Since then, she was called the world's strongest swordsman. Only Edelweiss could cause Drake such tension from a distance. Only the world's strongest had such sharp ki. Edelweiss was approaching at incredible speed. Drake stared into the distance. Ikki Kurogane said, "I didn't expect to meet Hyoku so soon." Drake looked at Ikki Kurogane. He was smiling. "We agreed to become the strongest. To become the strongest, we must challenge Hyoku. I didn't expect it to be so soon." Drake was silent, then smiled. Challenging Hyoku now is too early, but seeing the world's highest peak isn't bad. But, Ikki Kurogane noticed Drake's gaze. Shiranui Amane, did Hyoku come because of him? Drake said, Hyoku might be connected to them, a rendezvous. Shiranui Amane's ability isn't simple precognition. Ikki Kurogane felt the same. Edelweiss was approaching, he had no time to think about it. Shiranui Amane said leisurely, "What are you doing? Tell me, I'm bored." Shiranui Amane didn't seem to sense Edelweiss's arrival, but Drake was still suspicious, but it wasn't the time to investigate. Drake saw a white light in the distance. Shiranui Amane noticed it. She's temporarily staying at Akatsuki Academy, but she came in person. Unexpected. But since she's here, the result is certain. Kurogane Senpai, I didn't lie. I'm your biggest fan. I love seeing you fight despite the pain, like against Reikiri. Against Hyoku, show me how you overcome despair. That's the coolest Kurogane Senpai. They ignored Shiranui Amane. As Hyoku approached, they felt immense pressure. They were in her domain, experiencing the world's strongest sword ki. A white light approached, brighter than moonlight. She slowed, walking towards them. She held twin-winged swords. Even though the blades weren't pointed at them, they felt like they were being cut. Sweat dripped from Ikki Kurogane's forehead. His body trembled. His body seemed to cry out. Run, or you'll die. Ikki Kurogane felt fear for the first time. It was a dimensional gap. Unlike with Reikiri, Ikki Kurogane knew he had no chance of winning if he drew his sword. No. He couldn't even block her attack. This was the weight of the world's strongest. But Ikki Kurogane didn't obey his instincts. He faced the pressure. Drake didn't retreat. As rivals, he couldn't fall behind. They saw Hyoku clearly. Her appearance didn't match the world's most vicious criminal. She was beautiful and pure, like a goddess. Shiranui Amane approached. I didn't expect you to come in person. Edelweiss said, it's Wallenstein's request. I didn't want to be involved, but I must repay my debt for lodging. Ikki Kurogane said, I should have known. Besides students, Akatsuki Academy has teachers. Wallenstein. One-armed swordsman. No, the president. Drake's expression turned serious. We were focused on Hyoku, we didn't notice someone else went elsewhere. But we can't escape, we have to trust the president. One-armed swordsman, Wallenstein, was a famous sword master, infamous. Wallenstein belonged to rebellion, he was one of the 12 apostles, an elite. They could guess Wallenstein's strength. But their opponent was stronger, they could only hope Tuka Tudo could defeat him. Edelweiss looked at Drake and Ikki Kuragain, her voice like a song. I don't want to fight you, but I'm obligated. If you stay still, I won't attack. They knew she wasn't lying, they could be safe. But meeting the world's strongest without doing anything is a waste. Drake said, preparing to fight, unleashing his fighting spirit. Edelweiss nodded. My apologies, I shouldn't have said that to a strong person like you. She turned to Ikki Kuragain. What about you? As a swordsman, you should sense the gap. You're afraid, yet you draw your sword. Edelweiss's gaze made Ikki Kuragain sweat, but he pointed in iron at the White Valkyrie. I want to show off in front of my rival. I've never been this scared, but I can't retreat. Surprisingly, you, the world's strongest, question the fighting spirit of someone who's drawn their sword. As Drake expected, Ikki Kuragain showed fighting spirit equal to his. Edelweiss nodded, understanding their resolve. She raised her winged swords. I am the peak, the end, the one who created the world with twin swords. I am Hyoku, Edelweiss. Young men, you will experience the vastness of the world. Thanks for watching.